Strap into your seats and get ready. It's time for the Mortarpod.
Hey, Alex from SeemsGoodMagic.com here. Welcome to this week's episode of the Mortarpod. Jake and I just finished up recording it a couple hours ago. The Mortarpod is brought to you by SeemsGoodMagic.com. If you haven't checked it out already, it's where I post all the draft videos that I do. I've had a lot of fan-submitted content, which I'm happy to put up there. I also have a couple buddies from my local meta starting to put up videos, so get a little more diversity. You should see some more standard decks and legacy, modern eventually. So enjoy that. Check out SeemsGoodMagic.com. The Mortarpod is also brought to you by VarenCamp.com. Scott Varenkamp designed SeemsGoodMagic.com. He did a great job. I recommend you check out his website, and that's VEHRENKAMP.com. And I really recommend his web design work. He does a phenomenal job. This week, Jake and I go over all sorts of different things, actually. Usually, we've had a lot of spoilers weeks these last few podcasts, but this week we kind of cover a few things. We talk about Travis Wu's Is It Blitz deck to start it off. We talk about some of the top 8 lists in Standard in the most recent events. We talk about some classic MTG kind of color pie errors that they made. We talk about M14 spoilers a little bit, but there's really not that much since last weekend when we spoke about it. But something I'm hoping we can do for next weekend is talk about more of these broken color pie cards from older sets of Magic, where their ability just does not fit with the current color scheme of those colors. So we even discover some of the text errors from old alpha cards, some of which I didn't even realize. So I hope you enjoy this episode, and expect a lot more content in these next few weeks. So enjoy. All right, I want to take a look at this Travis Wu Is It Blitz list because it's cool looking, cool sounding.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it looks like the point of the deck is to deal 20 damage via Gutter Snipes or Nivix Cyclops, or Nivix Cyclops.
Mm-hmm.
And the tools to do it are Artful Dodge, a lot of search effects.
A lot of one drop.
Yep, Thought Scour, Faithless Looting, and Thought Scour feeds the Snapcaster Mages too, which are in the deck. But the only real burn spells are Boros Charm, Searing Spear, and Pillar of Flame.
It's kind of strange not to see Delver anywhere here.
28 non-creature spells too.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the peak of Delver it was running maybe like 32 or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So
Maybe
it does, but I mean it needed the Ponder, I guess.
Yeah, too
at that point.
inconsistent.
Yeah, I guess so. It's interesting to see Nivix Cyclops actually put in a deck. I didn't think it was going to be good enough.
It's a sweet 1/4 for 3.
I still think the thing about Nivix Cyclops is I'd feel a lot better about it if it didn't have Defender.
Mm-hmm.
Because the fact that you can't, like, fake them out kind of hurts the card a little bit. It would be very nice to swing for 1, and then they have to be like, ugh, can I just jump? Can I defend it with no trades, or is he just going to play a spell and kill my guy?
Mm-hmm.
Or is he only going to deal 1? Is he going to save the spell? So you don't get to really have those luxuries with Nivix Cyclops.
Yeah. Maybe they could have made it that way, but 1/4 still would have been fine, too.
I feel like it would have been okay.
Yeah.
I guess it's like, I mean, it's the same mana cost, converted mana cost, as like a Horned Turtle or something, you know?
It's like, think of Kiln Fiend or Chandra's Spitfire. I suppose maybe they would have felt they needed to go up in rarity. But We Dragnox was 3-drop 1/3 flyer that got +2/+0.
Mm-hmm. Was
And
that common
was,
or was?
Yeah, it was common, and it
Okay.
was evasive, so it was even like
Mm-hmm.
you know,
That's true. And that was 3 mana as well.
yeah. So they really could have done it, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, they could have gotten rid of the defender. It's pretty
Mm.
interesting that they kept it around.
I think it still is like fine because it makes
Yeah.
you play around it a little more in that sense, but you know, they definitely could have not printed it with Defender, and I still think it would have been a fine, much better card.
Let me just read the list real quick for audio listeners. It's 4 Artful Dodge, 4 Faithless Looting, 4 Pillar of Flame, 4 Thought Scour, 4 Boros Charm, 4 Is It Charm, 4 Searing Spear, 4 Snapcaster Mage, 4 Gutter Snipe, 4 Nivik Cyclops. A lot of 4 ofs.
Is the charm is cool because it actually counters their removal spell on your Nivik Cyclops, potentially pumping him during combat or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's actually really nice. Maybe you like Artful Dodge it, attack, Azorius Charm, Is It Charm that, boost him again. Gutter Snipe, obviously really important in this deck too for the burn spells. Turns your Pillar of Flames into, pyrotechnics.
And Searing Spears into Lava Axes.
Yeah.
Boros Charms into 6 damage.
Which they don't even have a card for.
Yeah.
It's too good. But even Artful Dodge is really cool with Gutter Snipe because it actually turns Artful Dodge into a Lava Axe too.
It's just 4 damage with Artful Dodge and Gutter Snipe because you can send the Gutter Snipe in then.
Oh yeah, not Lava Axe, 4 damage. But 6 damage if you flash back the same turn or whatever. So you have potential to do a lot of damage.
With multiple Gutter Snipes especially.
Yeah, that's when it gets insane.
Mm-hmm.
Sideboard is 2 Faith Shield, a Think Twice, Harvest Pyre, 2 Electrickery, Jace Memory Adept, 3 Boros Rekner, 1 War Leader's Helix, 3 Ralzeric, Moorland Haunt. Now Jake's question was, what is the Ralzerics for? So why don't we find out? See if he's mentioned that anywhere. Here we go. Ralzeric contributes to our control plan versus aggro and a non-creature route to victory versus control. So he likes it in both the aggro and the control match? Maybe it's like specific matches he's referring to. Not every control match, but there might be a control match where you want it. Not every aggro match, but there might be one where you could really capitalize on it.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit, I don't know, I guess it's a good plan. I mean, you do have to, this deck definitely has to become the control deck against aggro.
Mm-hmm.
Because it does look like, it's almost like it's like a combo deck. It seems more like a combo deck, doesn't it? Than like an actual, it doesn't look like an aggro deck. So it's kind of a misleading name. It's not really a blitz deck from what I can see.
Yeah.
It's more
not
of a,
putting out as many threats as it can or whatever and just dumping them all on the board in one turn or something like that.
I guess it's doing it in a different way.
Yeah, it's putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, it's just
combo.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. But it looks like a really fun deck, and from what I've been hearing from him, it's been tremendously, even to his surprise, more successful than he originally thought it was going to be. So
4 toughness is, I think, super relevant on Nivik Cyclops.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, Snapcaster bringing it all back.
Mm-hmm.
The burn package can really clean up people really fast. Like just a Boros Charm, a couple Boros Charms and a Gutter Snipe goes a long way. So it can really dish out a lot of damage.
And main deck you can actually go into your control plan versus aggro because you have 4 Pillar, 4 Searing Spear, and 4 Is It Charm.
And the fact that he's got the lootings too really helps him so he doesn't have to worry about getting flooded as much.
Mm-hmm. Being able to toss Artful Dodge because it always will be there, for the 1 blue is really good too.
Tossing your extra lands is probably just super important with
this
deck.
is like a 4-5 land max deck.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you need on the board. And I don't know how many lands are even in the deck.
I'm counting now. It looks like 20 land deck, which makes sense.
So once you get 5, you're probably good to start ditching them all to Faithless Looting.
Yep, I would say that. Maybe even 4.
Yeah.
As long as you have enough to do a Snap and a Boros Charm, you're fine. So it's a cool looking deck. And the Reckoner's out of sight, I'm assuming, more aggro.
It does put up a wall against aggro too.
Yeah, it's definitely good against Naya Blitz.
Yeah.
What about, let's see what else he has to say. Let's see what he has to say about the the deck in general.
And you can see all this on Channel Fireball also for
Yeah,
his article.
that's we're just looking at the channel Fireball. I'm trying to think where I first saw the video. I think it was recommended to me on YouTube or something, so I was curious. But one of the cool 3-card combos that he talked about, 3-card kill combos, was Nivix Cyclops, Artful Dodge, and Boros Charm. So if you have a Cyclops on board, you Artful Dodge the Nivix Cyclops. It becomes unblockable. It becomes a 4/4. Artful Dodge Flashback. It becomes a 7/4. And then you Boros Charm, double strike it, and it becomes a 10/4 double strike, unblockable. So, and that only costs you 4 mana that turn too. So it even fits into a turn progression if you think about it. You can go turn 3 Cyclops, turn 4 Dodge, twice Charm. And the really nice thing, it doesn't step on the toes of each other's color by flashing back the Artful Dodge.
Yeah.
You do have to have very specific mana. You have to have 2 blue, a red, and a white on turn 4. But
with the amount of duels that are in Standard, it shouldn't really be that big.
Shouldn't be as bad as big a
You
deal.
only need 1 white in this deck.
And think about it this way: your first 2 turns can be spent setting up with Faithless Looting and like Thought Scours and stuff. So you're like, or even Is It Charms for more filtering. So really, like looting, charm, turn 3 Cyclops, turn 4 Dodge, charm, Boros Charm. Does that even sound that unreasonable? It sounds like you should be able to dig that up fairly consistently.
Very possible.
So this is a really, really cool deck, and I feel like a lot of his success is probably from people just absolutely not expecting a deck like this, because it's pretty highly it's highly unusual. I mean, this is probably the first time we've seen Artful Dodge
used in Standard, right?
That I can think of. There might have been like a weirdo Infect deck at one point.
Yeah, actually,
that
blue-green Wild Defiance Artful Dodge would have been okay too.
Yeah, Wild Defiance would have been good with it. There was a time I think people were experimenting with Livewire Lash and Infect. Artful Dodge with that is very good.
So Artful Dodge it's okay for basically it's combo, you know. Even Infect is kind of combo-y unless you're like, because it's not like Infect Blitz. You're again trying to pump one guy that's getting through.
What else did he say for his sideboard, though? I'm curious. The Harvest Pyre can kill the big creatures. Yep. And then, so he usually, he brings it in, I'm assuming, at the same time he's going to bring in Reckoner. The whole Reckoner Harvest Pyre thing. And actually, with this deck, I really see Harvest Pyre being good, because it looks like with the Thought Scours, Faithless Looting, the Use It Charms.
If you have a Snapcaster or the Harvest Pyre in your hand, you can just discard whatever you want to Faithless Looting and Thought Scour yourself all day.
Yeah, I feel like you fill your graveyard real fast with this deck. Moorland Haunt. Wait, was that in his sideboard? That's kind of strange.
It's a 1-of in his sideboard.
Allows us to get value in the longer games we can expect as the control deck versus Hyper Aggro, and as the aggro deck versus the control decks. So
I don't necessarily see the Moorland Haunt being that useful because he doesn't have like pump effects
or a ton of creatures.
Yeah. So I think it buys him like a turn or 2.
Yeah.
But that's a game that you're probably not going to win unless you're like really low on life, or they're really low on life.
It's cool to see Electrickery out of his sideboard. That is actually...
It's so good versus
me.
Hexproof.
And me, too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just good against a Blitz deck.
Yeah, and it's actually really good against the red-black aggro, too, because a lot of their guys are 1 toughness, including Aristocrat, you know?
True. And even red-green aggro, they're running like Stromkirk Noble. So having a 1-mana answer for that is good. And they also, especially since you can just be like Mountain Go, and they're running like Madcap Skills and Volcanic Strength sometimes too. So you can even get the 2-for-1 on them on your turn 1, their turn 2.
Right.
How about the War Leader's Helix? I was curious about that. This card could be another Boros Reckoner, but I am more comfortable playing long games versus Hyper Aggro with at least 1 powerful Willy. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. So if he's comfortable enough getting to 4 mana by the time, if aggro hasn't killed him, then I can see War Leader's Helix being huge. How do you feel about that card in Standard? Have you gotten a chance to play it at all?
I haven't played it in Standard, no. But
Are
it
you
looks
are,
cool.
are you a little bit surprised? I am. I was kind of expecting to see a lot more of this card.
You know, they
Is it
needed,
really too
I guess,
prohibitive at 4? Or
I think it is, actually. I think if they had printed Goblin Electromancer in a different way, put it on an artifact or something,
might have been more playable.
yeah, I think, or made it like the hybrid two red, two blue hybrid thing instead of Frostburn Weird, and like swap those two so you could play this in a Boros deck or whatever
Mm-hmm.
next to Goblin Electromancer at 2. I think it would be better because then it's like 3 mana. I'll War Leader's Helix that and gain 4 life. But at 4 it is a little too
Interesting. I mean, it's such a good limited spell for sure.
It's so funny because Lightning Helix is mashup of Lightning Bolt and Healing Salve. And
What's this a mashup of?
it's like I don't know what is it Soothing Nectar for 4?
Oh,
or
oh
for
no,
mana for 4
Sacred
life?
Nectar, but then
Yeah.
it's the 2 mana 4 damage.
But there isn't there's Flame Rift, but really it's Lightning Blast with 4 life tacked onto it. So
Okay.
it's actually
better costed.
yeah, it's better costed than what if they had done the mashup, which is really funny how great that increase would be from Lightning Helix to War Leader's Helix if they had actually done the real mashup.
Mm-hmm. Memory Adept, obviously, I'm assuming going in against Control. Found my Control opponents bringing in Rest in Peace. Oh, okay. So this is also, yeah, it's just a good plan against Control that has good Graveyard Hate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. I feel like Graveyard Hate's not, I mean, it's good, but it's certainly not shutting down this deck by any means.
No.
You know? All they really have to do is resolve the Cyclops or resolve the Gutter Snipe and capitalize on the spells they do have. It turns off
But
half
I can
of,
see
like,
that if
looting.
if he's playing against Control, I can see that they would be seeing him playing. Jeez, ouch.
They'd see him playing
like Thought Scour and Faithless Looting to dig and to put crap in his graveyard, and actually doing it that way. Because with some of those cards, it is like just storing them there. Artful Dodge in particular.
So I'd like to watch a few of these matches. I admittedly have not. I've pretty much just watched him do the deck tech on it. But cool looking deck. I think it's the first time you've seen it, right?
Yeah, it is sweet looking.
It looks like it's fun. It's not necessarily your style of play, but I could actually see myself playing something like this.
I could play it like once or twice and
get a feel for it.
Like just have fun with it, but yeah, this isn't necessarily my style of deck.
Yeah, it's close to my style because it looks like it's kind of win out of nowhere-ish. Win out of nowhere-ish early too, but it also looks like it has a good amount of late game plan if it just is relying on finding a Gutter Sniper and Nivik Cyclops. I mean, it can really hold on to the burn spells until they find one of them, and having 8 of them and 12 cards to dig for it, it's pretty good. So that's a cool deck. Thought I'd share that. Also we haven't talked about decks in Standard in a while, so surprisingly, Columbus, Ohio Standard Star City Games Open, and that just happened today. Somehow they already have it posted, as crazy as that is, so we're already getting instant results. But it looks like Jund took first. The top 8 is in order of 1st to 8th. Jund, Red Green Aggro, Bant Auras, Reanimator, Bant Control, Naya Blitz, Reanimator, and Black Green Zombies. So let's look at the Jund list, see what's new with Jund. I think there was, this was an interesting list to me, the deck that won. The main deck, Ground Seals, I was a little bit surprised by.
I guess they cantrip, so you can draw them.
So at least it replaces itself. Now, Ground Seal is kind of a unique one because there's some things that it limits and there's some things that it really doesn't limit.
It really only stops Reanimator and Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, it does not stop flashback spells. And what else does it not stop? It doesn't stop stuff like Grave Crawlers. It doesn't stop
Undying. It doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop Unburial Rites flashback and stuff either.
No, but it does. It does because you can't even target them.
Oh, I see. So you can actually cast the Unburial Rites, but you don't have a target
No,
for
you
it.
can't even cast it because the card
Because you don't have a
basically.
because you don't have a target for
Yeah.
it, you can't cast the Unburial Rites. So it does actually legitimately lock down on Unburial Rites. I don't know. I guess I was just fascinated that he felt it necessary to main deck it. I wonder how well that was paying off for him.
It must have paid off really well
Yeah.
since he won.
And there were 2 Reanimator lists in the top 8.
And
So,
I mean, it does draw you a card. It's not like total dead card.
hmm
So it replaces itself at 2 mana when you might not be doing anything anyway.
But his creature package is pretty much the same as it's always been, with the inclusion of Siren Sanity now from Dragon's Maze.
You know, you can also discard your Ground Seal to Liliana of the Veil if you're against
you don't
somebody
need it.
else. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But it's Huntmasters, Thragtusks, a couple Vampire Nighthawks. That creature package alone is just excellent. Excellent way to gain some resilience. And then a lot of Olivia's, so I'm not sure if that's how Jund is. I thought Olivia was kind of a part of that strategy. I didn't know it was like 3 of part of
She's
the
really
strategy.
good.
Yeah.
I mean, she
So it looks
clears
like
the board.
this deck was definitely just get 1,000,000 mana and then just steal your creatures, kill you with them. Other than that, it's got Garruk Primal Hunters, Liliana's of the Veil, Putrefies, Bonfires, a Dreadbore, some Farseek Ramp, Mizium Mortar's Pillar, Rakdos Return. So his main deck, it looks like it's geared all over the meta. It's got the Sire for the control, it's got the Ground Seal for the Reanimator, it's got the excellent removal package for aggro, Rakdos Return against the control. Even Liliana, pretty good against control, I would think. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not sure where it's best.
She's definitely annoying against control.
She's super expensive right now, if you didn't already know. Liliana has
I
been...
think she gets played in Legacy, too.
Let's take a look, actually. I'm kind of curious what the Star City price on her is now. I thought it was like around 50 or something insane like that. Yeah, $50. Wow. $200 foil. Pretty insane. It looks like, wait, didn't you buy a foil for like 100 or something?
Yeah, I really regretted it at the time, but...
You just doubled your money on that.
Maybe I should get rid of that now.
Especially since you don't even play it.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny, though. Okay. So his sideboard, Deadbridge Chant on the sideboard, that's kind of cool. Now, where would he have brought that in? Where do you bring in Deadbridge Chant? Control?
Probably.
Because of the potential
Removal
one-sided
that
value you get on it?
Yeah.
Remember, we played this we got a chance to play this in Limited about a month ago, maybe.
Yeah.
And how'd that work out for us? I thought it worked out decently well, right?
It was fine the one game we played it against, and then one time we got it after we'd been milled a few times already.
That's actually the funniest part.
Right? And then we sideboarded into more.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that was a different one.
Oh, okay.
Game 1 beat the guy. He had bad draws, is what happened, and we had resolved a Deadbridge Chant, and then we're like, oh, this is sweet. Game 2, we find out he's a mill deck, and we left in the Deadbridge Chant, and of course we see it in our hand again, Game 2, but we can't even play it
because it's too much of a liability.
And I think we took it out Game 3. It's funny because like our reservations about playing Deadbridge Chant were completely related to, well, if we play against a mill deck, it's horrible.
Yeah.
And then the one time we decided to like try it out in Dragons in the full block draft, play against the mill deck, but
it's
I
a
do
really
think,
sweet mythic though.
Yeah.
It's a great EDH card, if nothing else. I mean, 10 cards off the top is nothing in EDH.
Yeah. I agree. I like it. It was fun. I'm trying to think what we were doing with it though. There was something that we just kept doing because we needed to like discard to something. We needed an extra card every turn.
Pack rat. We had a pack rat.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was necessary to keep generating enough pack rats to put on, because he actually had us on a clock too. I think some sort of flyer clock, and we weren't going to be able to produce enough pack rats unless we had an extra card every turn. Yeah, because we were down to no cards left in hand. That was funny.
That was a crazy game too.
So that worked out for us. But yep, looks like a pretty stock Jund list. Nothing too crazy different. The red-green aggro lists are looking real good too. The one that took second was running Reckoners, Emissaries, Flintiff Boars, Gorklan Rampagers, Hellrider, Cacklers, Stromkirk Nobles, and then it was Pillar of Flame, Searing Spears, Madcap Skills. So very, very in your face, straightforward. Sideboard, Gruul Warchant, Volcanic Strength, Electrickery, Skullcrack, Mizium Mortars, and a Forest. Wait, that's kind of weird. Why would you sideboard a Forest? For the Gruul Warchant, if you're bringing in more green?
Maybe, yeah, because that ups your curve a little more.
I mean, if you look, most of the deck is red. Your only exceptions are not even Burning Tree Emissary, just Goreclan Rampager and Flinthoof Boar.
Yeah.
Are your only two exceptions in the deck.
That's true.
So if you're bringing in Gruul Warchants, he just wants to make sure he's got enough green, probably, to run it. Now, where do you bring in Gruul Warchant? Against a mid-range deck or something? Like, I don't know where that...
I think probably that's the best place to have it, and maybe it replaces, like, 2 of your Madcap skills.
Like, maybe it's good against Jund or something?
Could be.
I like it against Jund because they have such good blockers in Huntmaster, which
Huntmaster only gets to block 1 creature then, and it has to double block.
Yeah, so you still get to, as long as you're killing the Huntmaster, you're feeling good. But Thragtusk turns that off. It turns off a Reckoner. I guess Jund's not even doing that, but it turns off the Nighthawk.
Yeah.
Turning off Nighthawk's huge.
That is huge. No, it's a good place for it probably against Jund.
Yeah. Probably the Volcanic Strength too, just because Jund runs so many damn shock lands. There's probably a lot of opportunities to play Volcanic Strength out of sideboard, just from all the shock land used right now. Electrickery, same plan as looks probably the Izzet Blitz deck, just take down those Naya Blitz decks. And Skullcrack, it's kind of surprising to see it. I always wonder, I'm sure if there's any list that can play it, it's going to be this kind of deck that dishes, 9 to 12 damage on turn 3 and 4.
I could see it replacing your Pillar of Flame because...
If they don't have voice.
Well, if they're mid-range or Bant control or whatever.
Any sort of thing running Huntmasters or Thragtusk. So even Jund deck, you'd probably prefer this rather than Pillar, right?
Yeah, because it only kills half a Huntmaster anyway.
Yeah, and it doesn't take care of their Nighthawk or Thragtusk. Yeah. Or Olivia, even.
So those probably all come out then for the Skullcracks. Much better.
So, this is a good list. The red-green aggro list is almost identical strategy to what I'm doing, the sort of Naya human blitz deck. And actually, why don't we just compare it now to like the Naya blitz deck that made it in there. So this one's running Boros Elites, Burning Tree Emissaries, Champs of the Parish, Experiment Ones, Fire Fist Strikers, Flinthoof Boars, Frontline Medics, Goreclan Rampagers, Lightning Maulers, Mayor of Avabrucks, and a Silverblade Paladin.
Jeez. Just creatures.
Yep, straight up creatures. I don't really like that idea as much because there's just, I guess I kind of understand it because Fire Fist Strikers and Frontline Medics really, once you have Battalion, they really just turn off that any sort of interaction, almost any interaction with your opponent. So really the plan is just consistently have 3 to 4 creatures by turn 3, and Lightning Mauler turn 2 into your turn 3 Frontline Medic is huge too, and you can just start swinging every turn. So I'm actually thinking about picking up the Frontline Medic over Silverblade Paladin now, just because I want another out against, I guess it's not necessarily an out against Bonfire, but
it's a way to turn it off or severely neuter it.
Especially if they're trying to hard cast it for like 2 or something, It doesn't do as good a job in the late game as for turning off Bonfire, because most of the creatures in the deck have like 2 toughness anyway, 1 or 2 toughness. But, limiting the Sphinx's Revelation is actually just super important. Because usually when Control's playing against a Naya Blitz deck, they only get to Sphinx's Revelation maybe like for a 2 or like 3. They don't get the opportunity to really do the huge ones before they've already swept the board. And their second one is usually huge, but the first Sphinx's Revelation against that aggro deck usually only hits for like 2. So this even turns that plan off. So Frontline Medic, definitely good for this deck. But which list, I don't know. I don't know which list I like more. The red-green aggro list we looked at or the Naya Blitz deck. They both have their merits. The red-green aggro deck being more consistent as it's only 2 color. But the Naya Blitz deck has the potential with the Cavern of Souls to be a little bit better against Control. They can't turn off any of that creature plan they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure exactly which one I like more. This is definitely unusual seeing 0 burn spells
creatures,
in the main deck. But that just shows you how important the Fire Fist Strikers and the
I
frontline
kind of
medics
feel
are.
like you could just do Boros Charm though, in some place here.
Yeah.
Like that could easily be squeezed in. I feel like.
And I'm doing Boros Charm and Searing Spears main deck, and I don't regret it at all. I mean, I need outs for certain spells. You need to kill Olivia as soon as you see her against John, just because it takes over too fast on against the deck. It just kills everything, takes everything. So, Fiend Hunter, I'm assuming that might be their catch-all for an Olivia. They just need to make sure that they can hit it. Even if Jund has the out for the Fiend Hunter, it's like turning it off from being huge can be enough to at least, or forcing removal on the Fiend Hunter from your Jund opponent can be a big deal sometimes. Bant Auras, so usually called Bant Hexproof, but I'm sure it's the same plan. Pilgrim, Invisible Stalker, Strangle Root Geist, Voice of Resurgence, Geist of Saint Traft. Johnny Call of the Pride is actually an addition I haven't seen in that list before. Then Ethereal Armor, Rancor, Spectral Flight, Unflinching Courage, Selesnya Charm. It's actually pretty cool seeing a Johnny in this list because I can see how devastating that would be with
Rancor.
With the Rancor Ethereal Armor on a Geist of Saint Traft. How with a Johnny, that's got to be close to lethal. Turn 3 Geist. Turn 4.
Well, you can do turn 2 Geist, but
actually
off Avacyn's Pilgrim.
Yeah, I mean you can do 12 damage on turn 4 with just a Geist of Saint Traft, Rancor. Oh, I see. If you have the Pilgrim, turn 1, you could do like Rancor Ethereal Armor, a Johnny. On turn 4.
You could do that on Invisible Stalker on turn 2, like Ethereal Armor on turn 2 with Invisible Stalker. So you could do 10 with a Johnny and Invisible Stalker, Ethereal Armor, Rancor, and Pilgrim.
On turn 3?
Yeah, on turn 3, sorry.
That's pretty good.
That is, but then that's it. You know, you only get in for 5 the next turn, but I assume that you have another pump, like Spectral Flight or something like that, too.
It's a pretty interesting deck. That it's gone on this long. It's so powerful that even though it's totally reliant on, putting all your eggs in one basket, putting all your auras on one creature and getting in for 1 trillion damage, it's managed to be successful just because of how powerful a mechanic Hexproof is, I'm assuming. I mean, people were rocking their one of glaring spotlights just so they could at least target target the stupid hexproof creatures. And another funny thing about this deck is it's really good in every match just because it does its strategy so fast. It carries out its game plan on turn 3 and 4 very consistently and wins on turn 5 very consistently. So, I mean, against any deck, it outraces them. And then the Unflinching Courage, gives you that edge against the aggro decks. Not a sideboard. For a while, I saw some of them were doing like a Nearheath Pilgrim, which was good for, just if you didn't find your Unflinching Courage, just making your Rancor Spectral Flighted creature gaining you 1,000,000 life. So they have a good plan against aggro. You play Control. How have you fared against this the Bant Hexproof deck?
I have been able to beat it, luckily, but it's not an easy fight, and it's very reliant on draw,
Finding your Supreme Verdict at the right time.
I am not even playing that kind of Control. I'm playing more mid-range right now, because Control is so hard to make work in this standard right now, because everything happens so early, I think I'd much rather be playing some sort of mid-range or aggro strategy right now than Control.
It's cool to see Sigarda out of the sideboard because we haven't seen her in so damn long.
Yeah, and she's such a house too. It doesn't make
giving yourself protection from like Liliana,
the one
which is actually a legitimate Devour Flesh. I'm trying to think of any other sack effects really that
Far and away.
Yeah, and that one's actually starting to see some play in some Esper control lists. None of the Esper control lists made this top 8, but I still think that strategy is good. All those fuse cards just been really good impact on standard, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that have, what are the ones that we think are probably good enough? Far and away. Are there any? Turn and burn, definitely. Turn and burn.
Yeah. I feel like those might be the two
That we know of yet. I mean,
I don't think any of the multicolor ones are good enough. Like even Ready and Willing, which is probably the best one, is
you don't
not
think
good
that
enough.
one not good enough?
No. I mean, it's in junk, which is not a color combination that is a blitz.
Is either side of those worthwhile?
There's Untap and Indestructible is okay in white green.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that available.
Might want to play that instead of Rootborn, maybe, if you had nothing to populate anyway.
Yeah.
Looks like this deck was doing Rootborn, which is just a crazy amount of protection if you think about it. It's your and it makes sense why you would, because it has both guys with Same Trapped and Voice that produce tokens. You know?
Yeah, but Voice wouldn't do it on a Supreme Verdict unless it got destroyed. So
yeah, you're right. It still has to get
point.
destroyed or have them cast a spell on your turn before you even would start to get value from the Rootborn. But it's funny to me that they even brought the Root. I mean, Rootborn obviously comes in against the Supreme Verdict deck since that's actually an out against all the Hexproofers. But this, I mean, this could have been a deck I could have seen myself playing. I'm kind of glad I didn't go down this path just because I feel like even though it's harder to protect against, I don't know. I kind of like having the mix of threats more than I still like the mix of threats more than putting all your eggs in one basket, I think. But
yeah,
I can tell you this deck is very good. Bant Auras, Bant Hexproof, whatever you want to call it, very strong deck. Reanimator took 4th. They're still just resing that Angel of Serenity. They can't get away from their 7 mana,
can't stop them.
5/6 fly. Their Mahamoti Gen plus triple Fiend Hunter or whatever. You know, pretty sick. It's got Pilgrims. It's cool to see main deck Blood Baron of his Copas. I was expecting that card to see play, but much more likely out of sideboard. Centaur Healer, a couple Fiend Hunters, Restoration Angels, Thrag Tusks, Abrupt Decays, Grizzly Salvages, Farseeks, Mulches, Sever the Bloodline, Unburial Rites. This deck is a good deck, and what you guys can look forward to, especially by the time this podcast is posted. Tristan Peterson, who was on our podcast two podcasts ago, 2 or 3, whatever. I think it was 2.
No, it was 2.
2 podcasts ago, but he's going to start recording now. He's already recorded one, so if you want to look at Reanimator in a daily event, I think he said he ended up going 3-1 or something, which is cool. But I'm sure his list is very similar to this. He's been playing it for a couple months now, and
he's really good.
Yeah, he's gotten really good at it. He likes it a lot, so I'm planning on checking his video out as soon as it's ready. He's just like rendering it and getting all the details worked on how to post it right now. I'm trying to explain that to him. But so if you want to check that out, like how this deck plays, the Reanimator list is fun. I mean, it's undeniable. It's just that's a fun strategy, interacting with your graveyard after filling it up.
Yeah.
And the beautiful part about this deck is it doesn't even like rely on that necessarily. It really just wants to survive because, believe it or not, the Reanimator lists actually can have just as good, better usually, long game plan than a control deck, because the bigger its graveyard's getting, the more tools it's going to have later with Unburial Rites and searching for stuff. The sideboard plan for it is Acidic Slime, Deathrite Shaman, Sin Collector, Voice of Resurgence, Abrupt Decays, and Trustani. Acidic Slime was sort of a plan that the Reanimator list took up maybe like a month ago, and it's mostly for against control, I'm assuming? Is that where it's going to be best? I mean, it's probably too slow against anything else, but in the mirror match even, like destroying their land game plan. Should also be noted, I haven't been reading the mana bases, but this one runs Vault, which is just insane in this deck.
Yeah.
It really is insane. I've been watching...
He's got a lot of life gain, so I think Blood Baron might actually get the boost from this deck.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. Blood Baron with Vault is actually, even though it's redundant with itself, getting the 30 life is huge. I've still yet to see a 10-10.
which is like almost game over at that point. If you're at 10 or less life as the opponent of this card and they go to 10-10, it's pretty much over.
That's true. It's kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's like by the time you get its ability online, they're dead from it. So
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting. But yeah, if you want to know more about Reanimator, we can look at the subtle differences between this one and the other Reanimator lists that made it. Looks like this one opted. Definitely weird to see Griselbrand. I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah.
So this one's running a Griselbrand. It looks like this one's actually significantly different. This one's main decking the Acidic Slime and the Sin Collector plan. So it looks like this version of Reanimator was anticipating seeing more control,
Mm-hmm.
and the other one was probably anticipating seeing more aggro.
Yeah, because the other one had a lot more life gain. It was playing the
I feel like it was doing more
additional,
Thragtusk too,
it was
wasn't
doing
it?
all Thragtusk and
Yep.
then additional Centaur healer.
Yep, this one's just doing a couple Thragtusks. I mean, Griselbrand, though very powerful, I would think would be kind of tough to play against aggro since...
It's not exactly the lifelink that you're gaining off of Griselbrand either. You know, like whenever you lifelink, I feel like you just want that 7 cards then from it.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's pretty much you bring your Griselbrand back on turn 3 if you've got your ramp, or turn 4, and then you're just paying 7 and drawing 7. You're just completely refilling your hand and making them deal with an enormous demon. Griselbrand's a sweet card.
he is.
Have you got a chance to play him at all?
I haven't in standard.
Yeah, he fell out of standard real fast, oddly enough. He was, I think, the original Reanimator go-to target when he came in and was legal,
Mm-hmm.
or first seeing some standard play. But since then, it's just been all Angel of Serenity, really. And Griselbrand's about to rotate out now, too, as sad as
that's
that is.
sad. And you can't play him in EDH. so he's
It
like,
makes sense.
yeah.
I didn't actually think about that. So he's
Yeah.
straight up banned in
yeah,
EDH.
just get him and draw like what?
You pay 14 life,
Yeah.
draw 14 cards,
You can draw even more than that.
find your Reliquary Tower.
Yeah. He's crazy.
He is crazy. This is also, yeah, so they although in this full 75 they're running a lot of the same cards, it does look like they were completely polar opposite what they were expecting to play against.
Mm.
Band Control took 5th, and Jake and I were just commenting how this is funny that it's called Band Control, because the main deck is actually like a mid-range deck. But actually, now that I'm taking a closer look at the sideboard, I guess it becomes a control deck out of side. But it's Aetherling, Angel of Serenity, Arbor Elf, Avacyn's Pilgrim, Loxodon Smiter, Restoration Angel, Thragtusk, Voice of Resurgence, Prime Speaker Zagana, Garruk Relentless, Jace Architect of Thought, Selesnya Charm, Sphinx's Revelation, Farseek. So on the surface, we see 0 counterspells. The only removal is really, Selesnya Charm, right? Garruk Relentless is kind of like removal.
Pseudo removal, yeah.
So very, very little removal actually in this deck. I guess Angel of Serenity to a certain extent. But like we said, it almost looks like the main deck is just like a mid-range sort of deck.
Mm-hmm.
Fatty creatures, efficiently costed. How do we feel about Aetherling? I like this card a lot.
I think it's really good.
Yep. It was questionable. We knew it was going to be like a staple of a control deck eventually. We just didn't know when. I certainly wasn't expecting it to
become popular.
Yeah, until at least Innistrad Block was out of standard. But it already has, so if that shows you anything. I mean, really the most important part about this card is once you have enough mana, it's like impossible to kill this thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can't sweep the board. You can't target it.
You can't make them sack it.
You can't make them sack it. They're
Yeah.
literally the only
If they
out.
play it with 8 mana, then you can't kill it unless you have 3 removal spells that you can cast sequentially, instant.
And Randy told us really the only outs against Aetherling are Pithing Needle and Slaughter Games.
Mm-hmm.
There's really no other way to really deal with it. I really like the Pithing Needle idea.
Pithing Needle is okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not fantastic.
It also works
but
if you're playing against control. They're most likely playing Planeswalkers, so Pithing Needle's not bad in that respect either.
That's true. And also, I mean, once you've gotten the Pithing Needle online against Aetherling, and they already have the Aetherling out, it really turns off their supreme verdicts and like terminus and stuff too. So
Yeah,
that's
so
it is an actual, I think, legitimate out against Aetherling if Aetherling becomes the go-to threat, which I think it is rapidly becoming.
I think I couldn't understand how it wouldn't become the next big threat. You know, even
The
attacking
control threat. I mean, what's even close? In
even
standard,
attacking as
you
a
know?
vigilant 4/5 unblockable for 2 mana every turn, and then being able to defend itself the following your turn. You know, is really good.
Do you like this iteration of this card the most?
The Morphling style card, yeah.
Actually, I wonder if I'm going to try and do something crafty and see if I can find a way to serve just by doing ing in text.
No, because then you'll get everything with ing in it.
That's true. How would I don't know. I guess maybe there's not a way. Shapeshifter. See how many lings there are. Aetherling, Isling Leprechaun. Underling. This is a game in itself. Oh, all the changelings, I guess, too.
Ashling. Yeah.
Ooh, there's actually tons. Okay, well.
You can search up Shapeshifter.
I'm sure there's
it's Morphling, Torchling,
or is there not that
Thornling.
many?
No, there's not that many.
Shapeshifters?
Yeah.
It's all the clone spells, pretty much?
Yeah.
Plus.
Well, what did you just search up last time? Changeling?
Ling. Aetherling,
It's Aetherling, Torchling, Thornling, and Morphling. Those are the lings.
No more, huh?
No.
I want to take a look at the differences in abilities on them. Just make sure we're not missing any others. It looks like there's actually some more that they did in like the unglued sort of block.
Yeah.
But they did that same sort of theme to making the card. But Morphling was 5 mana 3/3, and then you could pay a blue to untap it, pay a blue to give it flying, pay a blue to give it shroud, and then it has the pump effect. So this is significantly worse, as it doesn't actually protect itself against any sort of sweeper effect. It's
only 3 power, but this was a kill condition then.
Absolutely, for control too, I'm sure. But it was a it was a protection. It protects itself against spot removal strictly. That's it.
But you see that this is like kind of a mashup. Aetherling is kind of a mashup between Morphling Shroud and untap ability with its blink effect. Because you can't target it and then it comes in untapped anyway.
So they've definitely just straight up upgraded it.
Yeah.
Good upgrade. Progenitor Mimic.
Nice.
Shapeshifter, the original. Thornling, 5 mana 4/4, gains haste, gains trample, is indestructible, and then the pump effect. I actually like this one, though it didn't see much play. Getting indestructible is pretty good too.
I think
still protects itself against a lot of things.
I think haste is the most irrelevant ability on this card.
Because it's really only relevant the turn you play it. Yeah, that's a good point. I could see that.
Like,
all the other ones say there's at least
ability is relevant.
There's at any time in the game, maybe. But haste, you're right, only relevant the
and
turn you
it's
play
the
it.
mythic one, which is kind of like.
Why did they make it mythic?
Yeah.
Is the reason they made it mythic because it's in green? And then you might argue Torchling, but that one was specifically made in a color pie.
I don't know why this is so like hard for green to have or whatever. You know, it's not like this ability set is so outlandish, and it's not like
I feel like the last
+1/+1, which is the way green would normally play.
Yeah, that's just what I was gonna say. It feels highly unusual to see the colorless abilities, the +1/+1, -1/+1 in green.
This one doesn't even trigger the Naya 5 power thing either. So this as a mythic was not cool at all.
And Jake's referring to sort of like a set of cards from Shard's block that was like designed. The Naya strategy.
The Naya strategy is 5 power creatures.
There were spells that rewarded you for playing 5 power creatures, like or even made it easier. There was that creature that ramped you for 5 color creatures, right? It like it added a colorless, but if you played a 5 power creature, like it deals damage or something? Or?
No. The nurturer or the Sunseed nurturer and
there's like 2 in a red
there's
for a 1/1
they
tap
all
for a
tapped
color.
for 1 colorless, and that was the ability. But
Mhm.
then they also had an additional effect at the end of your turn if you controlled a creature with
Okay.
power 5 or greater.
Yeah.
Which this would still trigger. But then there's Mighty Emergence, which is when a creature enters the battlefield under your control.
If it had,
if its
it
power
gets
is 5 or
+1/+.
greater, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it.
And then there was also the 5 mana red enchantment that
Yeah.
when you play the 5 power
Yeah,
creature,
where Ancients Tread.
yeah, where it deals damage equal to its power.
Yeah, it does
too.
a Lava Axe.
Or was it just straight
No, it's
5 damage?
It's 5
or was
damage to target creature or player whenever a
5 power.
5 power creature enters under your control.
Okay.
So yeah, this one, it's dumb because it's a mythic, and they totally had the opportunity to give it 5 power, and they just chose not to.
Do you like the picture?
Picture's fine. I have no qualms with Kev Walker art, but I am a little upset that they decided that this one needed to be downgraded to 4/4.
Mm-hmm. I could see that. Torchling was 5 mana in red. And like I said, it was in Planar Chaos originally, which was a set that was specifically supposed to be breaking all the color pies, giving abilities that were not typically in that color to that color.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of funny that they did that. It was very exciting at the time.
Yeah.
It was almost like a relic of the past because
Mm-hmm.
originally Magic, it definitely was never expected to take off to the
They did
scope
it
that
whatever
it
it
was.
felt right, and like
Yeah.
if it didn't feel right, they would make it feel right. Like
Yeah, I'm trying to think of specific
Acidic-
color pie broken cards or
Our
from old
Acid
sets.
Rain. Acid Rain is probably one of the best examples, like where it's just destroy all forests in blue. And it's like, why would blue ever get that ability?
And we can look for more of them in a second. Anyway, Torchling's abilities are just he can untap itself. It makes it so a creature has to block it, and then you can change the target of a target spell. So if we've noticed any sort of theme from these Ling spells, it's that they have one of their abilities is like a form of protection against removal. One is a form of a combat trick, whether it be target creature blocks it, gains trample.
Unblockable or flying.
Yeah, so
Some
either
combat
evasion
effect.
or a combat effect. And then the untap, the haste, the other one had untap too, right? More flank.
Yeah.
And then the exile effect, I guess,
Which is
the best
sort of
one.
like that. Yeah.
The best
it is
one,
the best,
definitely.
because it's a mashup of essentially Shroud and
Should be noted it's more expensive too. I mean, they did not make Aetherling a 5-drop.
no,
they knew
but
that they were
it's a 4/5 for 6, and it like outstrips Thornling. Who is a mythic green creature.
It's true.
That one of its abilities was only relevant 1 turn.
So they made it more expensive, though. At least they were conscious
Yeah.
of that. How much more upset would you be if Aetherling was 5 mana? It would feel insane.
Yeah,
Even
it
if-
would be really, really insane. I'm sure they tested that one.
See, my problem is, I bet it would actually almost be too good at 5 mana as a 3/3, just because you can.
You can't attack with as much because of the 5 toughness. You get an additional 4 power at times. So it's like
And you get to block better with
Yeah.
it too, which is cool.
it's an 8 power attacker unblockable that blinks out potentially to block as a 4/5.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's definitely the best one, though, like you said. I wouldn't even mind. I think we'll come back. We'll look at some. I'm kind of in the mood to look at some old color pie broken cards now. But first, I think we're just going to run through a few spoilers. Surprisingly, Jake sort of said this earlier, but they were like spoiling M14 like crazy. They probably did like 100 in maybe a week or two. And then all of a sudden they jumped on the Modern Masters spoilers.
Mm-hmm. It was the weirdest.
Yeah, and they got through all those because Modern Masters just was released pretty fast.
I mean, it should be noted that these are not Wizard spoilers. These are spoilers from like the Duels
Judges
of the
of other
Planeswalkers.
countries and stuff too. Sometimes that's how that goes
Yeah.
down because that's where you see like the foreign language versions of cards.
Mm-hmm.
And you rely on translators to like figure out exactly what the card's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that gets lost in translation too, I've noticed.
There are some that have been like Bogart Shenanigans was originally spoiled as whenever a goblin card is put into your graveyard instead of like from the battlefield. So
It might have caused quite a bit of confusion.
that
Especially
definitely
when
made
you-
like self-mill goblins like something that people were like excited to do, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Or like playing Tarfire and then getting an extra damage off of it.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. But just a few spoilers to run through. Jace Memory Adept is coming back. Do you think there was even like maybe a decision that was going to be made whether they wanted to do, instead of the Memory Adept, the Architect of Thought, maybe? Or does he just...
It's in a
Just,
core set?
yeah, see, why wouldn't he feel like a core set card? He's not that confusing,
I
is
think
he?
it's not that he's confusing. I think that there is a lot of text on Architect, though. If you look at him, he's got some really small text because each of his lines is actually like 3 or 4 lines of text.
Okay.
So I don't think that it's that they don't think that he's fine for a core set. Maybe I just don't think they were ready to put him in a core set.
Okay.
Plus, he's like still in standard for another year.
So it's unnecessary.
Yeah,
I
would
do
actually really like to have Bellerin back.
I could have been okay with that. I can actually get behind Architect of Thought in a core set, though. He doesn't feel off to me, besides just what you said, just having maybe a little bit too much text.
But he is mythic too, so that means that you won't be exposed to it too much. The thing is that all of the core set planeswalkers have been pretty basic, you know. They like sum up one strategy within that core thing.
Exception being maybe like Gideon, which was I was actually never behind that being in core,
Yeah.
just because it was a planeswalker that shifts into a creature is confusing for players that are just getting into Magic via a core set. So it would be like, I don't get it. Is it a creature? Is it a planeswalker?
Yeah,
How am I
and
interacting?
then it becomes both at once. So
then that can get really confusing. And also because it protects itself from some things. So then it's like, wait a second, when it's a creature, does that mean I can't deal damage to it? Does that mean I can deal damage to it when it's in planeswalker form?
Yeah,
so
so before
like,
the ability resolves, you can burn your opponent and like have him lose loyalty.
so I do feel like Gideon was a bit of a
Yeah.
mistake putting into,
But
or at
this
least
is
that
like
version of
the
Gideon.
second generation
Either version of Gideon.
of the original core set planeswalkers, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Is what you can call him.
And a Johnny's coming back too. What was he just printed in? Return Ravnica? Is that where we saw him?
A Johnny? No.
Originally.
Oh, the Caller of the Pride?
Yeah, the
core set M13.
Okay. That was the first time we saw him.
Yeah, Caller of the Pride.
Now, Caller of the Pride is pretty special in that he didn't see much play, and he looks really good, you know? He was first spoiled, he's 3 mana, he comes in with 4 loyalty, he's already got more loyalty, you know, for his converted mana cost.
It's
which
a pretty
is unique.
Yeah.
He can use his second ability without killing himself, unlike stupid Liliana Dark Realms. And then the
who
plus
has an
1
ability that's not even that powerful at -3.
Yeah. I mean, a Johnny is narrow in where you're going to play it, you know? It is nice that you don't even have to have a creature to use its ability, so it can at least always pump itself and make it huge. And, I mean, its ultimate is definitely a win con.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Putting out a bunch of cats is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's like a little White Sun Zenith once you can ultimate.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just really never saw much constructed play. But I like it. I like a Johnny. I will say I like this version less than I like the older Johnny.
Yeah.
That older Johnny really felt like it was made for a good aggressive deck. Yeah.
It was also just so basic, you know. There
+1/+1 counters, vigilance, which was just beautiful for protecting itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, your creatures are now bigger, and go ahead and attack with
Yeah.
them, and you can still protect me.
Yeah.
And then or wait, that was a -1, I'm sorry. And then the +1 was gaining life, so you get a little bit of resilience.
Mm-hmm.
And then its ultimate, I guess, was a little bit lackluster, in that you only got an avatar that's constantly shifting in power and toughness.
But it was like, it built off the first ability, you know?
Mhm, definitely.
So even it wasn't terrible.
I did like that of Johnny more. This one is very cool, though, and I would love to see it played at some point. I've definitely lost to it and constructed before. Maybe the most exciting comeback to a core set would be Mutavault. Originally printed in Morningtide, this card has kind of always been an expensive card for extended, modern.
Mm-hmm.
Does it even see legacy play? I feel like it could, right?
I think it could.
Are they just doing Mishra's Workshop instead, or?
Well, Factory, but
I mean Mishra's Factory. Or are they not even doing that? Is that card
I don't
not
even
good
know
enough
if they
for
do
Legacy?
that.
That's kind
I
of
don't
funny.
even know what Legacy plays. They see Wasteland is just played as a 4 of all the time.
Yep.
You know, so having something that you're relying on getting damage through, I guess, is not exactly.
I wanted to talk about that too. Chris Konepke is another guy from our meta, and he's gonna start recording some videos for us too. He's actually the only one of us I know that's got an actual legit Legacy deck online. So he's got Rug Delver online, and if you know anything about that deck, we can pretty quickly take a look at that list because I like it. It's a strong deck, but we'll take a look at. Wait, that's Rug Control. That's not the deck I'm looking for. There's a Rug Delver list that's Rug Delver. Here we go. So something like this: Delver of Secrets, Nimble Mongoose, Tarmogoyf, Brainstorm, Chain Lightning, Daze, Fire Ice, Force of Fire Ice, huh? How good is that spell? That is pretty good. What do you like more, Turn and Burn or Fire and Ice?
Well, Fire and Ice is probably more utility than Turn and Burn, since Turn and Burn only has one.
Yeah, and the fact that it's already like a double card that's got a draw card effect on it, it's pretty cool. But you can't fuse it, right? So you can only okay. So I guess that is a perk, Turn and Burn. But
yeah, but
it's pretty rare that you get to 5
like,
mana in Legacy. They always say that, but I swear to God, I've seen a lot of Legacy decks.
I have too, but
you know?
they're not considering getting to 5 mana.
Yeah, that's true. You can't expect to get that in
Yeah.
Legacy because Legacy is so nuts.
Look at this 4 Wasteland deck too.
But it's also got Ponder, Spell Pierce, Spell Snare, Stifle. So if you haven't noticed already, the bulk of this deck is 1 and 2 drops. But Nimble Mongoose was something that's just like crazy good in this list. Just a 1 mana 1/1 Shroud. It's not even hexproof, and it's got Threshold +2/+2. But somehow that's enough. That's really enough to get there. This deck, I guess, gets to Threshold fairly fast. Like I'm surprised that they do, but they can get 7 cards in their yard pretty quick, I guess. They're just burning you out.
It's all the fetches too.
And oh yeah, always I do have to always keep that in mind. So you got the fetches. You've also got your 1 mana burn spells in Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning. Daze is essentially free once you have your island. Daze is just such an important Legacy card. It's really funny. If you don't know what Daze is, 2 mana instant. You can return an island you control to its owner's hand instead of paying Daze's mana cost, and then you counter spell. It's basically a free force spike if you control an island or 2 mana. And sometimes you have to hardcast your Daze, but
and that's fine too.
Playing around your Daze can be so annoying, especially like we just talked about. You have 3 or less lands, so it's very difficult to play around a force spike in Legacy. But Daze gets there, so expect to see a list. I don't know if I'm sure his list might be, slightly different, but this is the strategy that he's got in Legacy. And as I understand it, this is like one of the best Legacy decks, as it puts on a win condition turn 1 and then protects itself with Force of Will. Usually the decks that run Force of Will are the best decks in Legacy.
I like that this deck will only set you back about $3,000 or $2,000 to $3,000.
Yeah, if you look at the deck price average, it's a $2,200 deck. Now, I mean, this is a real life deck. That's the real life price. If you were to price this out
online,
yeah, it's significantly cheaper.
Yeah.
They do. I mean, they have dual lands online, and they're not redeemable, obviously. But they're the Masters Edition versions of these cards. So Masters Editions were these editions they released online specifically to fuel the Legacy. Do you remember pre-Legacy? There was a time where they didn't even have Legacy online because they didn't have the cards for it, and it was called Classic, where you would play all the old cards that they were bringing back. But now it's kind of cool. There's enough to support like Legacy tournaments and dailies and stuff online. So once again, expect some of those videos, Legacy, maybe some modern lists too. I think he's got like a modern Jund list or something.
Sweet.
Yeah, he's got some really expensive, older format decks online. So I'm actually excited to watch those too. If you're like me, I really want to know more about Legacy. There was a time where you were into Legacy maybe for like a week, where you were just into sort of a combo aspect of it. Jake's sort of, a brewer in the non-alcoholic sense.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, totally.
I think it was more of you just wanted something that you like playing decks where people don't know what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Is that really what it is?
Yeah.
So, what was the combo that you had going on? Like Legacy, Italia or something?
No,
or?
it was chant. I was chanting them out every turn.
Chant,
Like Orm's chant or just recurring Oris, the grandeur
that's
chant.
the one I was thinking about. So how did that work exactly? Which one? What did I have to look up what Ortis does?
And surprisingly, Oris was actually a pretty good card against a lot of legacy decks by itself. But
Oris, Samite Guardian is a 3-mana 1/3 human cleric. You can prevent all damage that would be dealt to target creature this turn by tapping her. And then it's got Grandeur, which was an ability specific to Future Sight. And it was actually only on a cycle of rare legends.
Cards, yeah.
Rare legend creatures.
Yeah.
And you discard another card named Oris, Samite Guardian, and target player can't play spells this turn, and target creatures. And creatures that player controls can't attack this turn. So how did you infinitely recur this card?
Either with Volrath Stronghold or Phyrexian Rebirth, I think it is. Or Phyrexian Reclamation.
But Stronghold puts it on top of your library, so was it just you had enough draw card effects where that didn't matter, that it was taking away your...
No, it wasn't that. So I didn't use Stronghold, like, as the end-all be-all combo, either. Because it wasn't that good.
I see, yeah, because it still takes away your draw stuff.
Yeah.
What was the other combo?
Oh, I had Stoneforge Mystic package in there, too. That's what it was. So I was playing Jeet with Stoneforge and Batterskull and sort of Light and Shadow, which is also a way to res.
Yeah, and that's actually, I'm sure that's a very important aspect of Legacy, is being able to, I mean, it's the only format remaining where Jace, Mind Sculptor, and Stoneforge are actually legal anymore, that I know of. I mean, I guess they're legal in Commander too, but I'm talking like an actual competitive like environment. And Stoneforge is just as annoying as ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best thing about Oris, though, was that if they attacked into her and they had a Jit out, she could block it and prevent them from getting counters on it by just using her tap ability. So she, like, fouled up a lot of people because of that. I remember playing against anyone. This was also back when Maverick was still around, and I could actually play against Maverick because I could block Tarmogoyfs and Knight of Reliquary and just prevent the damage to Oris. And then eventually because I also had Isochron with my Orm's chance in there. So I had that combo also going on. And it was just to lock them out, and then I could swing in with my Batterskull or my Sorted Up, Jeeted Up, something.
But we went off on that tirade because I did want to let you know that those videos are going to come soon. So if you're like me, I want to watch some Legacy and learn. But Mutavault coming to core set, I'm actually very excited about that. I think it's, like Modern Masters, it's another way that they can infuse relevant cards into Modern, Because I'm sure Mutavault is seeing some Modern play. I don't know how it would be.
Yeah.
I don't know what lists exactly yet. I have to look, but definitely feels like it's good enough to play in Modern. So, do you feel like appropriate in a core set? Does it feel okay, Mutavault?
Yeah, I think it's fine for a core set. It also is good with this core set because of slivers.
And they did right by not putting Changeling on it.
It didn't have Changeling on it originally either.
Yeah, I know. That's good that they did that. That was wise because it lets you bring it back without having to... Instead of saying Mutavault becomes a 2/2 Changeling creature until end of turn.
Well, I think the other thing about Changeling is that then it would have to be like a tribal land too, or gains Changeling until end of turn. Just sounds weird. I don't know.
Oh, I'm glad they didn't do it. But it is essentially making a Changeling creature. And actually, weren't there creatures before Changelings that were exactly like Changelings? I'm trying to think.
The one from Ultimus is the only one.
Okay, from Onslaught block.
They weren't all creature types.
It was like Legions? Is that what it was from? I think Ultimus was from Legions.
Yeah.
And
he was the only one that was all creature types.
I see. The other ones, they became a specific.
Yeah, you chose a creature type and they became that type.
Okay. Yeah, so Mistform Ultimus, 4 mana, 3/3 changeling. But it's funny, they didn't change the card text to changeling, even though it is the same thing. No. Oh wait, even if the card isn't on the battlefield. So yeah, it even interacts with.
It's the same.
Okay, so even cards in your graveyard,
Mm-hmm.
this would still affect. This in the same way. Like Lord of the Undead could bring this back from your graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it doesn't have that creature type, it's saying even if this card isn't in play, it's every creature type. So it is straight up changeling without saying changeling on it.
Mm-hmm. It is funny that they brought it back and time shifted though, right before Lorwyn, to kind of preview it.
Purposely,
Mm-hmm.
of course.
Purposefully.
Is that what it is? Actually, I don't know. Is it purposely or purposefully?
I think it's actually two different things.
We'll have to dive into that later.
Yeah.
But Celestial Flare is actually another card that I'm kind of excited about for Constructed. Definitely limited, but Constructed. And Celestial Flare is 2 white, instant, target player, sacks an attacking or blocking creature. So, are you planning on playing this in Constructed? We kind of talked about how, like, alongside Azorius Charm in, like, a blue-white control deck, we could see this being pretty useful. And also keep in mind, this card, unlike Azorius Charm, takes care of hexproof creatures.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, like, actually a good out against, I don't know. See, the thing is, after rotation, we don't know of any dangerous, like, actual hexproof threats, right?
Yeah.
Are there any? I mean, we're just worried about, like, Geist-Sustained Trap and Invisible Stalker right now, and both of them are going to be rotating out, so.
Yeah, there really aren't any.
I don't think so. I'm trying to think of the ones from Return to
But like
Ravnica
the core
block.
set is kind of weird because it fills a couple roles where it's preparing you for the next block and taking care of this like last block, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
And there is going to be a period where both are played together.
yeah, but you see that like some of the cards are really good before rotation, and then they fall off. Like Trading Post is one of the probably best, or whatever. Is it just Trading Post?
Are you talking about the 4-mana artifact
Yeah.
where it's got like 5 different abilities?
Yeah, that's
Or 4
probably the
different
best
abilities.
example of something that went completely off the map when Scar's block was out.
Yeah, that was really strange.
And then Thragtusk actually came up. Nobody was playing Thragtusk before that.
Yeah, because well, there was also Titans,
Mhm.
which were like you'd rather just play the
Yeah,
Titans.
that's true too. So, but the other thing was that I think life gain in general wasn't that relevant when Infect was around, because then the biggest deck was like, or the most annoying combo deck was that Wild Defiance one
Yeah,
with Infect.
yeah,
So life gain wouldn't have even been relevant. You needed to actually control the board at that time.
mm-hmm.
So, you know,
Trading Post only, yeah, it really felt like a niche role for decks. Maybe like for a month, there was like a cute black-white value deck that used it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Trading Post never really caught on. Even though I think it is a cool card. Makes goats, dude.
Mm-hmm. It sure does.
Really not much more spoilers beyond that. So, Living on the Dark Realms coming back, Shimmering Grotto coming back. I feel like we covered those already.
It's just a lot of reprints that they spoiled recently, so.
Siobhan Dragon coming back. That one's a little bit unique and unexpected because we haven't seen it in a while. And I kind of felt like they were done with Siobhan Dragon, didn't you?
Yeah. And it's kind of funny that they brought it back when they've also got Scourge of Valkas in, and Scourge is like strictly worse than it, I feel like.
Which one is Scourge of Valkas?
It's the mythic one. 5 mana 4/4 for 3 red and 2 blue. And every time a dragon enters the battlefield, it deals damage to target creature or player equal to the number of dragons you control. And it has fire breathing.
Why do I not even remember this card?
It's in red right there, dude. It's not going to be on there.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's
Yeah.
It's actually in the same set.
Yeah.
No wonder I didn't recognize that. Okay.
Right there.
That's right. This was an early spoiler too.
Yeah.
Wow, you're right. So that one's mythic. It's harder to cast color wise, and a pretty narrow ability, right? I mean.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. It's a 4/4 for 5, and 3 of it is red. It just doesn't really make sense to me.
It doesn't feel the right power toughness ratio for cost with flying. I kind of know what you're saying. It's almost like it should have been a 5/4 flyer.
I would have rather had it as a 5/5 without the fire breathing ability then. If you feel like it's too strong at 4/4 for 5, you know.
And it's hard to say this card is too strong when it's you know, a mythic too. It's pretty hard to
because
break a mythic.
in standard,
Mind Sculptor being an exception.
I think you would still be able to destroy it outright with Doomblade. You know, even in limited, you can still destroy it outright with Doomblade.
And last week we talked about Doomblade's coming back, kind of exciting. It's been a little while since we've seen it. Coming back at Uncommon, which we both, at first I was a little bit like, why the hell would they do that? I mean, they've just printed it at Common for like 3 core sets already. But I guess it does make sense. It's an excellent limited. Yeah, it's an excellent limited card, so who knows? Maybe it'll even affect the price now that it's only Uncommon. It won't affect the price, but Doomblades are a hot seller.
It'll sell well now, and then they will go up because they're selling more.
Yep, and Rancor was originally printed Uncommon, made Uncommon in M13, and that card has sold well always. Like I make like
$2 or $3 a piece or something.
Yeah, there's something like that, which feels pretty good for a card originally printed at Common. It feels really good. Sort of like the Brainstorm thing. Brainstorm maybe worth like $1 or $2 a piece. And that's that was just a common, right?
It's only been a common, yeah.
Yeah. How many was that printed a lot though, or?
Yeah, it was printed in
originally a lot.
And 5th edition.
8th edition or 7th edition, something like that. 5th edition was it maybe too?
It was in 5th edition. I don't think it was in 8th edition because it's not in modern.
Okay. And then it was like unlimited and revised.
It wasn't in any of those either. Ice Age was the first time it was printed, but it was also in Mercadian Masks.
So they brought it in weird. They brought it in blocks.
Yeah.
Not core sets. Until
they put it in 5th edition.
Not until 5th edition.
I don't know if it was. It wasn't even made until until Ice Age, which the next core set was 5th edition after Ice Age.
I see. So at the time, it obviously wasn't an issue.
They were making it to correct Ancestral Recall.
Oh, that's right.
Because they wanted...
Ancestral Recall was clearly broken because that cycle...
And that's why Incinerate was printed too, to correct Lightning Bolt, because they thought that was like too good too.
But then Lightning Bolt was brought back. No,
Lightning Bolt wasn't brought back until...
M10.
M10, yeah. But it was out then in 5th edition and beyond.
Yeah. They thought that was too good at the time, and they were probably right. Yeah, at the time it was.
Creatures were shit.
Yep. But now that's funny that you get to see the power creep of 20 years of creating cards has made it where Lightning Bolt can safely come back, and they did prove that in M10. I mean, it was around for a little while too.
For 2 years.
Yeah. What other was it in M11?
It was an M10 and M11, yeah.
And that's it, and then they were done with it. Okay. So
which is fine. Like it's way too good. I think it needs to be uncommon, and that's fine too. You know.
Yeah, actually, I'd be okay. I'd be on board with that.
Yeah.
Or
because Searing Spirit feels right at 2 for a common. If they're gonna do Lightning Bolt again, they just should print it at uncommon.
Yeah, well, especially since that would be way too weird if both Searing Spirit and Lightning Bolt were both in a set at common. Lightning Bolt.
They wouldn't ever do them together.
Yeah. I mean, it just
same role.
Yeah, it's actually kind of weird that they've downgraded that. They it's interesting how they design their sets because they're like, okay, Lightning Bolt's fine here. Now let's just do Searing Spear instead.
Yeah, but Lightning Bolt was also fine when Zendikar Block was around, which was a very aggressive set.
A lot of quick creatures at the time. Goblin Guide
comes to mind very
rapidly, definitely.
But even the Step Link's Goblin Guide plated Geopede thing was just so
good
obnoxious.
Point. The entire landfall strategy,
and you could get that 4 or 5 damage in on turn 2 or 3,
and that was
one creature.
This was like the birth of like Stoneforge first starting to see play. I was playing Stoneforge at that time was played to dig up like adventuring gear, just so you could power up your landfall creatures even more,
or to make your Cunning Spark Mage into just ultimate kill with
to find the Basilisk Collar. Yeah. But that's what like originally Stoneforge was being used for, and it didn't feel broken at all. It felt like, oh, this is okay card. And then it, once Batterskull came out,
it was really only Batterskull. And
I thought it was Feast and Famine too, because even before Batterskull, there were people that were still abusing it with Feast and Famine. The Cobblade deck was
Feast and Famine was good.
But the Cobblade deck even got a bigger upgrade with the Batterskull, but even pre-Batterskull,
getting a 4/5 Vigilant Life or a 4/4 Vigilant Lifelink on turn 3 is stupid. That you can't interact with, right? And you can actually bounce it to your hand after they've Path to Exiled or removed your token creature and
Get it out
redo it
again.
again without them interacting with it on its way down.
Ugh,
So it was
I don't
like,
miss Cobblade.
yeah, that's why Stoneforge got banned eventually, was because that was really obnoxious.
Well, I was thinking about looking at some Dragon's Maze, but I kind of look at old sets real quick. I just want to look at, because we were talking about earlier about old, stupid, color by broken cards. So maybe we want to look at, just, could start with like Alpha, I'm sure. Do they not have, would Alpha be called something else on here? Limited Edition Alpha?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Why does it say limited edition?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So far, I guess Animate Wall could have been more of like a blue. I feel like it's a little bit more of a blue
It works
spell.
as blue or white, yeah.
Armageddon, destroy all lands. I mean, I guess a Johnny Vengeant was a card that
You would feel like it's
interacted-
more red, but
it is more red. I feel
but
like
white also can wipe the board completely of one type of thing. It has been able to do that from the get-go.
with balance.
Yeah. And white had so many good ways to do it too back then.
Balance does affect lands, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was hand size, lands, and creatures.
So I don't know. I guess Armageddon felt a little bit out of color pie for me, but I guess that's still
Yeah,
satisfactory.
I don't like it.
They
as a
wouldn't.
card.
They wouldn't do it
They
anymore.
would
I
never
don't
do
think.
it anymore. Not without a condition on it.
It's a little too good in some situations.
Yeah.
Sure, it was terribly annoying. Well, see, originally they really screwed up in the first few sets with how land destruction worked. They didn't quite understand how devastating land destruction was. And Stone Rain was around forever. And even though that was like an obnoxious archetype, it wasn't like, I don't feel like it was ever on top. At least not that I'm aware of. There wasn't really a time that I know of where it was like land destruction was dominating all the,
It wasn't in that sense.
yeah, the competitive scene wasn't overrun
Well,
with.
actually, no. The Magnivore, the blue-red Magnivore deck was during like 9th edition or 8th edition, whatever set that
Was the top deck at the time?
No,
or-
it was just one of the really good strategies, and it was a
Hmm.
wildfire-based boomerang, Eye of Nowhere, like bounce your lands for the first few turns.
We talked
then
about
I'm gonna destroy all the lands you've managed
Ugh.
to play in one turn, and I have Magnivore out that's gonna survive this damage because now there's like all these sorceries in the graveyard. Yeah, it was a really obnoxious deck. I remember playing against it.
and they had to get rid of Stone Rain eventually,
Mm-hmm.
just because I guess people were too annoyed with it. I feel like they could safely bring it back.
It's
now,
not
but-
even good. Nobody wants to play that strategy. The thing is, you can't ever upgrade Stone Rain and feel good about it either. You know,
Mhm.
it's better to have it at 4 mana. Then you can do an upgrade to that and make it feel better. You know.
Stop me when you see one that's out of where it should be. I guess the red elemental blast always kind of felt like breaking color for red just because it actually counters spells.
I think it fit perfectly fine actually because of what it was doing. You know.
But there is no other example in
And-
red of counter spells, I don't think.
There's Burnout, which counters a blue instant. There's also, Pyroblast, the
What was
complete
the
opposite
what
of
was
it,
the
or
green
complete-
the green red hybrid counter target blue
yeah,
instant
gosh, what was that? Guttural something, right?
guttural response?
Yeah.
So that I guess there has been a
It's not outlandish for them to be able to interact specifically with this color and this type. You know, it's blue instants is what they really have come to hate on, and that's a fine counter. Initially, you know, and Red Elemental Blast, because it destroys something outright too, that feels right. But the blue one shouldn't be able, you know, to destroy a red permanent then either. They should have actually been blue encounters a red spell, red one destroys a blue permanent.
yeah. I would
And-
like that more
yeah, and that
instead
would've
of
felt
giving
better.
both to both cards.
Right.
I don't
But
think they did that right.
They wanted to just mirror it, and they mirrored a lot of them actually. Like White Knight, Black Knight was mirrored. Life Force, Death Grip is mirrored. I'm trying to think if there are any others. Well, they eventually mirrored Life Tap with Thought Leech, which was blue life gain. That one doesn't make sense. So once we get to that, you can see that.
Look at the wording on the...
Don't look at the Oracle wording on Camouflage.
The Oracle text on Camouflage is insane, but I'm going to read it just to see if I can... I want to see if I can even wrap my head around it.
No, it's...
You cast Camouflage only during your Declare Attacker step. So, okay, Declare Attacker step, let's say I attack with 2 creatures, and then I cast Camouflage. This turn, instead of declaring blockers, each defending player, let's just make it simple, the one defending player you're attacking chooses any number of creatures he or she controls and divides them into a number of piles equal to the number of attacking creatures for whom that player is the defending player. So if you attack with 2 creatures, they have to divide their creatures into 2 piles, correct?
The ones
right?
that they're choosing to block, they have to put into 2 different piles.
Okay,
yes.
So let's say they have 2 blockers. They have to divide it into 2 different piles, correct? Okay. Creatures he or she controls that can block additional creatures may likewise be put into additional piles. I see. So does that mean if they had like a Palace card, it could go into both piles?
Yeah.
Okay. Assign each pile to a different one of those attacking creatures at random. Each creature in a pile that can block the creature that pile is assigned to does so. Okay. So essentially, I attack with 2 creatures, I play Camouflage, they have 2 blockers, they have to split them into 2 piles, and then it's random what's blocked.
They don't have to declare any blockers. The declaring blockers step for them is splitting them into piles. It's the declare.
So they can
step.
choose to not block.
Yeah.
They can choose to block with 1 creature that will be put into a random pile, or block with 2 creatures that's put into...
They can choose to make 1 pile with 2 creatures in it. If they control 2 creatures, they can choose to make 2 piles with 1 creature each in them.
And there's actually different things that would happen in each one of those. So if they were to put 2 creatures in 1 pile, if the pile is hit with no creatures, then your creatures are essentially unblockable.
And it would almost be better to say, whenever an opponent assigns a block this turn, randomly assign a new blocker for that, or randomly assign a new creature to block for that creature.
This card would have worked better as a declare after blockers.
Yeah, after blockers are declared, then you can switch blockers.
But I guess I understand it flavorfully because it's called Camouflage. They wouldn't have been able to block you in the first...
But then they shouldn't have been blocked if it's Camouflage. Do you know what I'm saying? But this is actually more
it's not but it's not really blocked because you said
this is more like ninjutsu, where like suddenly I'm somebody else, and you blocked me thinking I was something else.
Oh, I see.
That's how the flavor of this works. Camouflage, in reality, should prevent them from being blocked in the first place.
Yeah, but I guess they were trying to... I mean, it's alpha, for God's sake.
Yeah,
so.
no, it is a fine card. And the idea was that you saw stuff moving in the brush, and you went to investigate it, and then suddenly it was something you weren't expecting.
Yeah, and hence the random aspect of this card. Okay. I feel like random you don't see too terribly often.
It's definitely not in green. It's a red effect.
It's pretty strictly a red effect. Now, there's probably some other exceptions, but random, pretty unusual for green. And definitely a card that, actually, I just looked at Chaos Orb. This is a funny example of a card that they definitely changed the ruling on. Originally, Chaos Orb's wording is, if Chaos Orb is on the battlefield, flip Chaos Orb onto the battlefield from a height of at least 1 foot. Like they would ever do a measurement thing anymore. If Chaos Orb turns over completely at least once during the flip, destroy all permanents it touches. Then destroy Chaos Orb. Obviously, there's so many things wrong with this card now. It's like, oh, you're playing Chaos Orb? Okay, I'll just spread all my permanents like this. No problem. You know what I mean? I'll just...
That was how you used to play because of Chaos Orb, too.
Well, why wouldn't you just be able to do it when you saw the Chaos Orb? You know what I mean? It's not like there's any rule
like, in response to you casting Chaos Orb, spread my permanents out. Or, like, stack my lands into 1 pile so the Chaos Orb can only physically touch 1.
Or not even you playing it. You don't even have to worry about the split until they trigger their... Okay. Oh, you're triggering Chaos Orb? Okay.
But Chaos Orb and cards like anti-cards show you exactly how the game was intended initially, too. Just for a fun thing that you did probably with your friends or family at home. You could each make your own deck, and, it was all for fun. And that's why cards like this don't work anymore, because there is a strategy to play around it that's very easy to play with. Like you just move your permanents around. Yeah. And they can't do anything about it.
Anti-aspect of this game was certainly unusual, and then I think it immediately became clear what the problems were with Ante. You were having kids playing this game, and
it's a form of gambling, like in technicality.
The game is still a form of gambling, in my opinion. I don't know how it's not considered gambling when you're paying cards, when you're paying money to get random cards to potentially win more cards. That sounds like gambling to me, since the cards have value too.
I guess, but it isn't gambling, like, unless you intend to go and sell those cards immediately, but then you have to go through another step, which doesn't make it gambling. You're purchasing a product, opening it, and reselling it, you know?
Yeah, I guess that's true. I don't know.
And even the tournament thing isn't gambling, you know? If you can have poker tournaments that, you know, are even a form of gambling or whatever.
Well, poker is definitely gambling, and the difference between poker and a Magic tournament is
you don't
purchase the product that you're using to play poker.
Yeah.
You purchase the product that you use to play Magic. So that's really the only clear difference.
And you get to keep your product though that you put your money in. It's not like you're gonna lose all your money playing this game.
You get to keep the cards.
You get to keep the value, the cards that you purchased for that value.
And Ante was definitely an aspect that dynamic didn't work for. You know what I mean? Where it was like.
It was definitely something that.
It was different. It was different. So I never played one Ante game. I'm sure you didn't either.
I played with Ante all the time when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah, that was the only way we played.
I never played Ante. That's surprising. Yeah, I came around 4th edition, so I didn't do that. Should also be noted.
4th edition had tons of Ante cards in it.
They forgot to. No, I just mean. I guess we just didn't have any, or we didn't play it. I don't know. I guess we thought it was like there was no reason to, because we were sharing it. Me and my brother were sharing a card pool anyway, so I was like, what was the point?
I always did it like to try and get them to pay the alternate cost, but oftentimes it was better to just ante a new card,
I guess,
and beat you.
Yeah.
You know?
They forgot to do Circle of Protection Black.
The only one that makes the most sense.
The one that makes the most sense is the one they forgot, which is just hilarious.
It is really funny.
Let's see. Anything else?
It's interesting to see that Clone was around from the get-go, too.
Control Magic's so good.
Yeah.
So good that they haven't even reprinted it, which is just that powerful and limited. They had to turn it into Mind Control and make it more expensive.
At Uncommon. You could print that at Rare.
Does Conversion feel like something White should be able to do? Turn mountains into plains?
No.
I feel like it...
But it felt like it made more sense when they printed it as glaciers in blue and white in Ice Age.
Conversion's 4 mana enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you have to sack it unless you pay 2, and then all mountains are plains.
It probably would have made more sense if it was like, whenever a mountain is tapped for mana, it produces white instead of its normal type and amount.
Instead of just turning the lands into plains.
Because that doesn't really make much sense. They have many copies.
Creature Bond. This one
has been reprinted in black now, color shifted.
That's what I'm thinking too. Yep. This, I was gonna say, it feels more black now, but I feel like they really haven't done too much of stuff like this in blue anymore. It's 2 mana in aura. When enchanted creature dies, creature bond deals damage equal to that creature's toughness to the creature's controller. And just to let you know, auras like this, worthless and limited and constructed, usually, in my opinion. For the most part, these are pretty worthless since they actually don't interact with the creature themselves and require you to additionally have removal to even get value from them. So
or kill them in combat. At this time, there is no way to really surprise except with a spell.
You know where I'd really like to see an ability like this? I'd like to see this in white or something like white with an arrest effect on top of it. So you know what I mean? So it's like, I'm arresting your creature, and when that creature dies, it's going to punish you for it. Or even like, you could still, like, take away their attack ability, but then if the creature dies, it still has that ability. That'd be kind of a cool... Maybe we'll think about that for a SeemsGoodMagic set.
That's a good idea. I was just thinking that.
Cursed Land.
That's fine in black, but it sucks. It's a shitty card.
I bet it was good and limited. I bet Cursed Land was good and limited.
They had so many of these effects that, oh, you have that? take 1 damage during your upkeep. You know, like
Yeah,
these
Wanderlust.
kind of, and the artifact one from Antiquities that they made.
Curse Land's 4 mana.
Oh
Aura,
no, Warp Artifact is in this set, I think.
land aura at the beginning of the upkeep of enchanted lands controller deals 1 damage to that player. So seems pretty bad. I feel like this card could still be played in limited if they were to reprint it.
Hmm.
I feel like it's playable in limited.
Yeah, I mean
It's
it
not
is fun
fantastic,
because
but it does deal. I mean,
it puts
it's,
it on a permanent that doesn't usually get destroyed or removed. So
it's difficult to interact and get
Yeah.
rid of it. You have to have your straight up aura removal. So curse land, but you said it feels fine in black. Have they done stuff like that before, where it's like black?
Soul Bleed is the most. I think Curse Land is,
Contaminated ground is pretty similar
Yeah,
in that it
you're right.
it still affects the land, and they. So black does interact with lands, and that has interacted with lands before that way.
So, but it's interesting because blue had Psychic Venom, which is what those black effects have become now.
Yeah, you're right. And originally in blue they did weird like erosion, where it was like almost
It
like
was-
blue land
yeah,
destruction.
That was the way to deal damage to you in blue. Well, you know.
That was a
And
weird
actually,
phase, yeah.
Erosion is like really funny, but this was the dark too, when they took the darker aspect of the color and tried to make it more apparent. So blue had like straight up discard, and blue had straight up damage and land destruction because it was like the darker aspect of the color. But yeah, the dark was a really cool set as far as what they were thinking behind it when they made it.
Death Ward actually feels fine in white. They really kind of screwed up with these lace spells. Like, what was their original intention with lace spells? Do you know, like, what that
I
was
think it
supposed
was
to mean?
like for your protection creatures and for your circle of protections.
Okay, so if you don't know what the lace spells were, they were a cycle of rare instants from Alpha, Beta, Unlimited.
All the way to 4th edition.
Yeah, and they did this for all of them, I'm assuming? Okay. And target spell or permanent becomes blank, whatever type of whatever color lace spell you're doing. And they just seem, they're so underpowered now. They really just don't do enough. And trait doctoring is an example of a
You could do it with
spell
like
that's
Death
similar
Grip
now.
and stuff too. Like use Life Lace to make it green and then counter it.
Now, this does permanently change something, though,
Yeah.
correct? Which was also an unusual aspect of these cards, because nowadays when you permanently change something, you usually have to indicate it some. I feel like
No,
you
just
don't, because they don't do it that much. They don't
Yeah.
they don't do this anymore because of that problem.
They usually put it in parentheses, and if it looks like it would be normally an effect that it only happens until end of turn or whatever, they would put this effect lasts indefinitely in parentheses just to clear that up.
And actually, like we talked about with Trait Doctrine, the reason that card sucks is that it's until end of turn, but it's totally understandable why they had to make it until end of turn, because if you permanently just changing,
because you could
permanent colors every turn.
You could land screw people. You could be like, oh,
or even if it was non-land and permanently changing things, if there's a bunch of permanents on the board and you keep using it, you have to have your memory of like, okay, this is black, that's green, this is blue.
But it's not even changing the color of it; it's changing the color words on it and the land words on it.
Yeah, so then that's even more confusing. Where it's like, okay, I know I changed this one to green. I'm pretty sure,
Yeah.
So I think that was why they had to make it until end of turn. Unfortunately, that makes the card even more worthless.
They probably are more willing to use indefinitely effects on it. Well, I suppose they would just want to use it on auras where
where
see that it's
always have seen
there
that it's changed. Yeah, that's true. So they just really can't do that anymore, I think.
They need to limit the amount of times they do it for sure if they wanted to do it.
There was a time where Red just hated walls, and actually they still do it.
Still fine.
Yep. No, they still straight up done it. The Dragon's Maze. Yeah. So that's kind of funny that that's something that's maintained since Alpha. Red being
There's a lot of stuff that's maintained since Alpha, though.
And actually they've changed it, because I mean, if you didn't know already, originally there was no such thing as Defender. There were things that were just walls, and it was just part of the rules of Magic where walls cannot attack.
Yeah, and like cards like Carnivorous Plant, which is a 4/5 defender for 4, that's clearly a plant,
not a
would
wall.
have been printed as And was it printed as a wall?
It was printed as a wall
Right.
because it had to be to
Mhm.
show that it couldn't attack.
Yeah.
So
And-
they were too narrow thinking on. They were
Yeah.
like, oh, we'll just make them all walls.
We'll make them walls. But the thing about carnivorous plant was like it only had flavor text on it, and if you didn't look at the creature type, because why would you have to? There was no reason to. It's a plant. You wouldn't. And for the longest time, my brother and I, we were attacking with carnivorous walls, thinking it could attack. And I was like, but the flavor text says it can't. It can't move. And it's like, but the flavor text also has no effect on the game, And so until you figure out that it says summon wall on it, you don't realize that you can attack with this.
How hilarious is that, though? Like, when the game was first around and there weren't a lot of written rules to look through, I bet there were people that were like, I think we should look at the flavor text to try and understand how this card works.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. But I was going to say they did change the old red cards that destroy walls. Now that there's defenders, they pretty much just say destroy
a creature with defender.
Yeah, so they interact with creatures with defenders now. They did change that. Even though there are still wall cards that are printed, it would be much more narrow to print red cards.
It's a much better effect to say destroy
defenders. And it's cool that it was necessary that they changed it to defender, because now it's like
it
you can see
plays
cards
in red really well.
You can see cards. I was gonna say you can see cards that aren't walls that should have defender now. So it really opened them up for like all sorts of creative ideas that they can do.
Being able to call say guards, and they guard you.
Perimeter captain, an example of like very efficiently costed creature that's clearly not a wall that has defender and should have defender because it's holding down the fort.
Right. It's cool. I like the direction they've gone with that.
Dwarven Warriors, is that effect's definitely blue, but
it still is legit in red.
Okay, it's acceptable in red.
It would, be the tunneling aspect of red or whatever, but it's a very specific kind of unblockable,
Because it's so narrow.
Yeah.
The cool thing about Dwarven Warriors was you could make the creature unblockable, and then you could still pump it after you made it unblockable.
And it spells it out for you on the card too, so that you know
the original text.
Fire breathing.
The original text definitely spelled that out for you. It says tap to make a creature of power no greater than 2 unblockable until end of turn. Other cards may be used to increase target creature's power beyond 2 after defense is chosen.
They're like, maybe you want to pair this with fire breathing?
But they had to do that originally because, like I said, the rules were the rule books were so they either weren't written or they were poorly written. So cards had to answer the questions that you had about them on the actual card. That's definitely different than today. What are some more color pie breaking cards? Earthbind, if the chain creature has flying. Earthbind is a 1-mana aura. When Earthbind enters the battlefield, if enchanted creature has flying, deals 2 damage to that creature, and Earthbind gains, enchanted creature loses flying. Is Earthbind not pretty? That's much more green now, right?
It is more green, but
is there a time
you can see it in red? Still,
okay, so is red still anti-flyer a little bit? I feel like it's
like
Thunder Bolt.
Branching Bolt, Hammerheim Deadeye. These are more recent or modern sets. Skycutter Goblin.
So red and green have both.
Yeah,
I guess
red and green hate flyers.
Did green always hate? Did green hate
green
flyers
had Hurricane
originally?
In the original set.
Okay, so they did. That's something that's maintained too. Both red and green have always hated flyers.
And green also was the first or the only color really that had reach initially too.
Before they even had reach as a keyword. Elvish Archers was a really weird card. This is a 2-mana 2/1 first strike, and I mean it seems fine, right? But what's weird about it is it was a rare. So why did they do that?
Always a rare too.
Because it's such efficiently costed.
I think they.
Oh my God! Look how screwed up it was in the first. In Alpha, it was a 2-mana 1/2 first strike.
They really screwed it up.
I did not realize that. So they've definitely straight up changed this card to a 2/1. I'm pretty sure in any other set it was
And the beta printings are actually the final printings of these sets. That's why these were limited edition, and then unlimited was their final revised. Well, and then they did revise. So it's really funny that
they kept saying final. This is the final.
No, but unlimited was the first final set, and then revised was the actual final set.
So that I did not realize they had made that mistake on Elvish
And
Archers.
I think the reason Unlimited was actually not the final set was because it still had Moxes and Black Lotus and Power 9 in general in it.
I would say First Strike's not a green ability. It's definitely been there before.
I
The
don't-
leeches ability.
Yeah, I do not mind it in green. I wish that...
Because green creatures in general should have access to almost everything. Because...
Well, I feel like flavorfully it makes sense too, as far as like you're living in a forest, you can surprise people and ambush them in. So maybe more on defense, it makes more sense. But then that's like a really narrow effect. So why not just give them First Strike?
It's funny how much worse a 1/2 First Strike rare would have been than the 2/1 First Strike. It's like
but
they didn't even
2/1 rare First Strike isn't even that impressive.
No,
like,
not
this
at all.
could have been
Not at
printed
all.
at uncommon and
definitely.
been fine.
And actually, it could be common and be fine now.
Well,
in
no,
my
definitely
opinion.
now. But like, I see why they would want to make it a rare because it's like this doesn't happen in green that often. You know?
And also keep in mind, this is the invention of the evergreen mechanics. So they did not know what they were doing when they printed this with First Strike. I guess the
good thing is
didn't play test it
they
that
never
much.
gave blue First Strike except for on Illusion or Phantasmal Wall or whatever that one is, Illusionary Wall.
They never gave. Oh yeah, that was weird. Was that a 4-mana 7/4 flying?
It was a 5-mana 7/4
flying
First Strike Defender
with cumulative upkeep.
Yeah, with cumulative
Just-
upkeep 1.
Let's put 1,000 abilities on the card.
And let's make it shit because it's cumulative upkeep.
Yeah. Actually, False Orders feels pretty.
That's actually a
favorable to
red
its
ability.
color, yeah. So it looks like they haven't been too bad so far. Here's one. Feedback. This doesn't feel blue to me. This is an aura at the beginning of the upkeep of Enchanted Enchantments controller. Feedback deals 1 damage to that player. Blue does not interact with enchantments.
Yeah, I see this as a black ability.
Mm-hmm.
It could be.
Oh
red.
no, that's not even.
It could be a red enchantment actually.
But that they don't. I mean, most of these cards just straight up don't interact with enchantments. Interacting with enchantments is almost specifically resigned for green and white.
But red has had aura barbs and like other things. I'm sure that I can't think of.
Okay, so they've experimented with
people for having enchantments, and that's why this would make more sense in red. And it would make sense in red because the colors that usually play enchantments are white and blue.
And it deals damage, which is a red ability. So feedback for blue, though, definitely unusual. And can you even get more worthless than this card? They have to be playing enchantments to even be able to play this. And then even if they are playing the enchantments, it's not like it's turning off the abilities of the enchantments. It's just like slightly punishing them each turn. So and at an expensive, it could have been 1 mana.
Yeah, it could have been 1 mana easy.
So they really, feedback is not good. And it's not, whoever designed this should have gotten fired, is what I'm trying to say.
You fight.
Yep.
Richard Garfield. And he did. No, he just...
Did he design the entire first set? I guess
him and his friends probably all did it, and then they just had to make sure it felt good. You know, like the first set is all about how it felt color-wise. You know, it wasn't. There was no rhyme or reason to it. Did it feel right? You know.
Gaia's Liege. I did not realize that was originally printed in Alpha. Okay. Gaia's Liege is actually just a really good card because it can screw over your opponent's mana base. I think that was like the main reason why it was so good. But other than that, I guess it wasn't an insane spell unless you were straight up mono green. But it's a cool mono green.
You would be.
Yeah, it was a straight up mono green Stompy deck.
Yeah.
Cool card. Gloom. Alright, I think this is, no, I guess it's specific, but still, it's a weird card. Gloom is 2 and a black. White spells cost 3 more to cast. Activated abilities of white enchantments cost 3 more to activate. Oh, this is hilarious because they didn't print Circle of Protection in Alpha, and then
so it doesn't even screw over that one.
It does not even screw over the.
But the white spells cost 3 more to cast.
Oh my god!
In the face.
The original wording in Alpha was Circles of Protection cost 3 more mana to use. That is hilarious. So they upgraded this one too. The original Alpha wording was white spells cost 3 more mana to cast.
When did they change
Circles of Protection.
Check the beta.
Still circles.
Oh.
All the way up to a revised.
Wow.
So they had really screwed that up the first 3 times around. It was way too specific. And like we said, that's even more hilarious.
That they did that in the first edition because they
didn't even print Circles of Protection.
Oh my god. They really screwed that one up. Screwed the pooch hard.
Yeah, I did not realize it was that narrowly worded originally. That's really amusing. Learning a lot here, folks. Granite Gargoyle, I guess, feels a little bit. It's not that red doesn't get flyers, but a flyer that boosts its own toughness in red.
And I think strictly because it was granite, they decided to make it red. Do you know what I'm saying?
Because granite's a volcanic sort of. Or wait, it's not
because
even
it's a rock.
Volcanic rock.
Because it's a rock.
Oh,
and
okay.
it's a mountain. You know.
But white has marble.
Yeah, and white does get marble all the time, actually. Anything.
So they have rocks too.
Yeah, they do. But like this is, they didn't get it in the first set. I don't think. White didn't get marble.
But this one is out of color pie because it's not very often that you see red being able to bust toughness.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely not. This is not the like only card that does it. We even talked about Torchling earlier, which does it too. But still, definitely not a red ability.
Frostburn weird too, but at the cost of your power then.
And I think that you could argue the blue aspect of Frostburn weird would be the one that's letting you do that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else that's not feeling of color pie? It's kind of funny that Howl from Beyond was what's the aura version of Howl from Beyond?
Endless Scream that doesn't work the way that it's printed.
Oh, let's look that up real quick. What are you talking about?
Just look at the way that it's printed and then like
okay,
look
we'll
at the Oracle.
So originally Endless Scream was black and X enchanted creature gets +X/+0. So the Oracle text, maybe this will help reveal why that was wrong. Endless Scream enters the battlefield with X scream scream counters on it. Enchanted creature gets +1/+0 for each scream counter on Endless Scream. Okay, so my guess would be because it's an X spell and the text had no sort of way to indicate how much X you paid, they had to change that.
The problem is that for a spell with X in its mana cost, X only is equal to X on the stack. That's the problem with it.
So once it's resolved,
as it becomes a creature, X is always 0 unless something is telling you what X is. In this case, it's screen counters. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
This is a great card, though.
It was a really good card, and at the time that this card came out, I was a kid. You know, it still worked the way that we wanted it.
I think this card would absolutely still be played if they reprinted it for limited.
It's really funny, yeah. Oh, for sure. It's really funny that they printed it like this too, since it's straight up Howl from Beyond permanently.
Yeah.
You know?
And I mean, the only difference being you can't like do it as a surprise.
Yeah.
But I'd say that's still fair trade getting this as a permanent effect.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since fear was a thing.
Actually, at that time too, when that card came out, Shadow was a thing.
Oh God!
So it was
Tempest?
just like,
wow.
Yeah.
That is insane.
I'll play my 2/2 that has to attack every turn on turn 2, and then I'll buff it by 2 more. I'll put a 5-turn clock out or whatever.
Ice Storm. Okay, so Ice Storm is a basically green Stone Rain.
It's funny that green gets like the winter things to kill or to destroy lands. That's how they
justify it. Yeah, that is weird. The thing about green land destruction is it actually doesn't break color pie. They've had it in Creeping Mold, Acidic Slime. A lot of times green is non-creature.
Yeah, green shouldn't be able to outright destroy creatures. Is I think how it is.
And there's even exceptions for that with Desert Twister and I think there's one other card that did it too. I just can't think of. But.
Beast Within does, but then it replaces it with a creature, so it's not really like removing the creature fully. Illusionary Mask.
Illusionary Mask is actually a card. I think I sold it. I had it for a while. This card was the way that it was originally printed is significantly different than what they made it. Originally it was printed, you could like not tap your mana and play a spell face down. It was such a faith-based card that they definitely had to make a change. So this is the Oracle texted version of this card if you were to play it, and it's a 2-mana artifact, and you pay X, and you may choose a creature card in your hand whose mana cost could be paid by some amount of or all of the mana you spent on X. If you do, you may cast that card face down as a 2/2 creature spell without paying its mana cost. If the creature that spell becomes as it resolves has not been turned face up and would assign or deal damage, be dealt damage, or become tapped, Instead, its turn face up and assigns or deals damage, is dealt damage, or becomes tapped. Activate this ability only time you can cast sorcery. So really the main significant change of this is you had to actually, well, you were supposed to have the actual mana at the time you played the cards when it was originally printed.
Yeah, I don't think you had to have the mana available to you until you actually flipped the card over, right?
No. It was supposed to be, it was all faith-based. You didn't have to show any information, or you could show like 1 mana, and you were just supposed to play the card that you could pay for face down. So the faith-based part of this card was like late game. If it became flipped, you would have to your opponent would have to remember. Wait, you didn't have that much mana.
There
when you
still
played
is
this,
that.
No. This is different because you have to
Always pay mana.
Yeah, you have to pay the amount that it.
But then it still is faith. If you play more than
Wait,
one creature,
let me think about this. You may choose a creature card in your hand whose mana cost could be paid by some amount of, or all of the mana you spent. Okay.
So you have to at least pay its mana cost. So the thing that they want you to do is pay its mana cost, but you can add more to it. So this was their way.
Yeah, this is the way of flipping it. You have to have more mana than it.
At least as much as you could to pay it.
Which definitely makes it worse.
And then you do flip it. But I feel like the original wording is such that you could pay less than its mana cost, but then as soon as you flipped it, you had to pay the rest of it or sacrifice it.
And now it's a 2/2 creature spell too. I think originally it was just a face down nothing.
Because it didn't have any stats until you flipped it.
Yeah.
And those were its stats. Now you have to give it a power and toughness so that it survives on the battlefield.
Just the craziest damn cards that they originally had. Is Instill Energy very green? I feel like giving haste in green is not out of the realm of reason, but it's just sort of weird. And untapping the enchanted creature is green, but is giving haste to a green creature...
It's fine in green.
Okay.
It feels fine the way that they want you to use this card, too. Which is
getting
like,
double activated abilities.
Llanowar Elf or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fine the way that they worded it, or the way that they put it, in my opinion.
Okay. I'm so amused by that gloom.
I know, that's really funny.
Circles of protection cost. Most narrow ability in the world. Okay, Island Sanctuary. I feel like this breaks color pie. If you would draw a card, maybe it doesn't, but if you would draw a card during your draw step, instead you may skip that draw. If you do, until your next turn, you can't be attacked except by creatures with flying and or Island Walk. Doesn't that feel blue? Specifically, since it says Island Walk too?
It does feel blue, but I see why they made it, like, to show the interaction that white and blue are friends, too, you know, that you can have this white effect that actually, you know, is them going to an island because they're allied with islands.
Okay. And the only ones that would be able to attack them would be other
most likely
walkers.
Blue creatures or creatures that could fly over to the island to get to it.
Which is also blue, since blue is just loaded with flyers.
Mm-hmm.
But Island Sanctuary was a really sick control card, I think, at its time. Really.
Well, if you had Howling Mine, then it was just like, oh, one less card, you can't attack me unless you have a flyer or an Island Walker.
Yeah. Island Sanctuary still hold up to power level to this day, I would say. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they were to ever reprint it...
It's a similar effect to Moat, you know.
Yeah. So I guess they have had this in white, but for some reason this feels more blue to me.
I think because there's, like, more cost associated with getting there. It is funny that you don't get to draw any cards while you're on your Island Sanctuary, presumably because you're vacationing.
There's a lot of, in Alpha, multiple 3-mana land destruction. I guess Kudzu's like pseudo land destruction, but still.
And it actually is kind of backfire on you.
Since they get to do it back, but then you get to do it back to them again. Kudzu's cool because it goes infinite.
Yeah, it is cool.
And it's probably the most annoying thing ever when you're like, ugh, well, I am gonna get to do it again, but then he gets to take my best land.
Mm-hmm.
Ley Druid, pretty much worse than Findhorn Elf and Llanowar Elf, I think.
Well,
I guess the point of it was it could get more. It could get a different color, but
or it could be on the land that has
wild growth
on it, right? Which could get you just one Ley Druid, a wild growth could get you Force of Nature upkeep cost every turn. You know, for only 1 green then.
Okay, Life Tap feels not very blue.
Yeah.
Whenever a forest an opponent controls becomes tapped, you gain 1 life, and this is a 2 blue enchantment. blue gaining life is like...
And they switched this to green in Ice Age, called it Thought Leech. And
Okay.
it was triggered off of whenever an opponent tapped an island.
But seriously, like...
Oh, life
blue-
tap makes no sense.
Blue life gain? Like,
Yeah.
when else have they even done that? Are there even blue
Yes.
lifelink creatures?
No, but Relic Bind is another
Example of life gain in blue.
But that's it.
I mean, there has to be a blue lifelink creature. How could there not be? There must be.
There's not.
Not one.
There's
Calling you out.
There's
We'll
Merchant.
find out.
There's Merchant Ship, which lets you gain life if it attacks and is unblocked. There's not going to be any lifelink blue creatures.
Really?
Unless they're white and blue.
Okay. Arctic Haven is white and blue. Droxel Reaver is Rocksworn Monk. Security Merfolk, but it still requires what? There's a white aspect to it. Okay, yeah, I guess you're right. It's pretty amazing. They've managed to maintain that rule the entire time. However, kind of screwed it up originally with Life Tap.
But there were blue effects that let you gain life early on.
Okay.
Life Tap's one of them. Merchant Ship and Relic Bind, I think, are all of them.
I always like Living Wall, but mostly how gross the picture is.
Yeah.
It's like a picture of just teeth and intestines.
I think on one side of it, too, there's like actually another body in it, too, but maybe it's just the fetus.
Anson Maddox, did he do a lot of cool art? Or?
Yeah, he had a lot of surreal-ish, kind of gross art, I think. Maybe it wasn't even surreal, it was just like very... But it is funny that Living Wall was an artifact creature.
Instead
Shouldn't
of
you
wall.
be black or something? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with that picture.
Yeah.
How is that an artifact in any way, shape, or
yeah,
form? Unless it was all an illusion that it looked like that.
no kidding.
What else seems out of Color Pie? So they had banding in Alpha.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Okay. And banding was originally known as bands.
What bands are playing?
Man, that wording did not work out. That whole mechanic
Yeah.
did not work out.
Natural selection.
Okay, so natural selection is look at the top 3 cards of target player's library and put them back in any order. Now, this would be perfectly in Color Pie if it was yourself only.
Mm-hmm.
Or not even perfectly, but it would at least be more fitting. It's still a very blue ability.
Yeah.
But,
I don't really mind this in green.
But being able to do it to your opponent does not feel correct.
Yeah. It should be yourself, and you should be able to reveal a creature card from among them. You know?
It's funny seeing all the errors in Alpha, because this next card is Nether Shadow, and this is an example of a card that your order of your graveyard placement was actually relevant, which it isn't anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But
it is in Legacy format.
because
because they
actual
still
cards
printed
like this
cards
that
like
can-
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
So when and how that works is if cards are put into your graveyard simultaneously, you choose the order of how your cards go to the graveyard, which they have done online since the beginning, I think.
Yeah, and they still do it. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Nettling Imp abilities, they do that in blue now more, don't they? The sort of, or red. The
Red gets forced attack, and blue can do forced attack or forced block. Yeah.
but black,
And green does forced block also.
but black it's funny, they did it for a while in black though with like Norrit and Nettling Imp.
Mhm.
And there was that bat that we talked about that was like broken, where it was like
Maddening Imp.
where if they play something post combat, you can like
Even
kill 'em.
after you've activated. No, you have to activate it pre-combat. But if they make the mistake of playing it post-combat,
It kills
it kills their creature because
Yeah.
it didn't attack this turn.
They screwed that one up.
Yeah, and they still haven't corrected it either.
Yeah, and people have mentioned that too.
Yeah.
Did we play against it in
No,
limited or wait? What format was it in?
It was Tempest Block.
Okay,
so
we didn't play
play
Tempest,
against
no.
it, but we were looking at imps or something.
I
For some
swear we
reason,
saw
were
it. We
looking
saw
at
a game. I don't know where. I feel like we saw it somewhere though. It should be noted the original Orcish Oriflame was screwed up. It was originally printed at 2 mana enchantment. When attacking, all of your attacking creatures gain +1/+0. The funniest part about this is this could totally be playable
Mhm.
by today's standards, not be overpowered, and actually be a good card.
Mm-hmm.
But changing it to 4 mana, completely unplayable at that
Mhm.
point, and they fixed that right away in beta. So people must have early on just been really complaining about how good Orcish Oriflame was at 2 mana. Does
Yeah.
Paralyze feel much more like a blue
I think it does.
ability? Paralyze was 1 black aura. When it enters the battlefield, tap enchanted creature, and then enchanted creature doesn't untap.
In
during its
multiples,
controller's
this card was so annoying.
untaps though. So you had to pay.
4 per.
Oh, did you? But doesn't it just untap if you pay the first one?
Yeah. No, I meant like not on the same creature.
Oh, I see. Yeah. But so paralyzed doesn't even sound like a black card really. It sounds like a blue card.
Yeah, it does.
Even the name
Now
of
it does.
Yeah.
But like at the
At the
time,
time,
I'm
yeah.
sure they were like, no, paralysis, dude.
They had some learning to do.
Oh, you should look at the 5th edition art of Paralyzed, because that's like the best art.
Okay. So the original art, it looks like, was some centaur woman, and she's being paralyzed by a beam of white light. But 5th edition, it appears.
It's got like cobwebs on.
I don't get it. Oh, he's being paralyzed by.
No, he's paralyzed. He's been standing like that for
And
a while.
It's funny because he's standing in a swamp, it looks like, too.
Yeah. And it looks like he was mid-swing, too, when he got paralyzed.
Dude's pretty buff, though. Look at that back.
Yeah, wow. Ron Spencer knows how to draw backs.
Yeah, he does. We can get the draft started soon here. I just want to look at a couple more cards. Okay, Pirate Ship was another one, original aspect of blue that was just way too good. The same color that got counterspells also originally got the red ping effect.
Yeah.
So Pirate Ship, 5 mana, 4/3, can't attack unless defending player controls an island. Another sort of weird aspect of blue was this island home sort of thing, where it was like they really were sort of hellbent on blues like serpents and fish that could only.
Flavorfully could not get in unless your opponent had islands. They just could not attack.
And if you think about it flavorfully, it does make sense. I mean,
Yeah.
what the hell is a fish gonna do to
But
fight something in the
like
forest?
also the flavor behind it used to be that you were like you must have been fighting on the terrain that you had, because otherwise, now it's like these are your mana bonds that you're calling upon to get more mana, so it's not even like you're there necessarily. So that's probably why they can justify not having to print Island Home anymore.
Was it ever called Island Home? It was.
It was.
Right? Where was it called Island Home?
I believe in Mirage they keyworded it, but then they realized that they had keyworded too many shitty abilities like cumulative upkeep and phasing. Everything that's just a downsize. But
Yeah.
and that's why they actually got rid of it. And if they're going to do this effect now, they will print it like this again, where you can attack unless defending player controls an island instead of calling it Island Home.
An Island Home, but the additional aspect to Island Home
Yeah.
was if at any time you don't control islands,
Yeah.
you have to sack your
Yeah,
creature.
because your creature can't live out of water. Even though it's a pirate ship, you would think that it would still survive.
Where
even if
you
there
would
wasn't
get
water.
broken on land, I guess. If you didn't have a harbor,
I guess.
you need to control.
But if
How
you
about
have
in
an
addition,
island,
if you control a harbor, a card that has
Yeah.
harbor somewhere,
if you control Rishadenport, then you
then you can keep it without islands.
Then-
Otherwise, sack it.
Rishadenport, as long as you control Rishadenport, it counts as an island on this card.
But what's funny about that is how difficult would it be to control no islands and like be able to play this card? You'd have to be playing like lands that produce blue.
There were
islands.
no lands that did that, so like they would have had to actually destroy your islands
But-
outright.
and usually that would be very unusual. But
Armageddon.
in this, you've got all sorts of different colors that have land destruction. You have multiple, like we just talked about, green land destruction spells.
Yeah,
Like
green has
Tsunami, too.
straight up in this.
And they have
card.
kudzu, and they have that one that we said earlier, the 3-drop Stone Rain or whatever. So
It's fine that blue had this ability maybe as a way to be weak against red and green, because this is a really good card, if it were able to just attack in regardless. And it's funny that it can't because it presumably has cannons that it's firing. So like it
That's
actually
why it
is
can
a ranged. It's already ranged, so why can't it just attack anybody?
But blue originally had the ping effects that are in red now. They eventually realized, wait a second, oh yeah, maybe this ability should be in red.
Yeah. The color that gets the spells that do damage. But then blue had Psionic Blast too, so.
Yeah, and they did bring that, they time shifted that, which was
The
kind
thing
of
is
strange.
that because blue is like the color of magic, literally, it's very much the color about magic. Early on, I'm sure it was super easy to justify blue getting every aspect of magic, from damage dealing to life gain,
Mm-hmm. All right, Jake, you ready to start the draft?
Yep.
Let's get our drafting on here. We'll have to go back to that though. That was kind of fun.
Yeah,
looking
that
at
was.
old stupid.
A trip down memory lane.
Yeah,
So many of those
and
cards
learning
survived
things.
all the way to 4th edition.
What
too.
was the
It's pretty
thing
crazy.
beyond Gloom that we learned? There was one other one too. What the old Elvish Archers.
1-2, yeah.
Wow.
Not even good at 1-2 for
How
sure.
strange. Okay, where are we at here? Here we go. Wait, that's Swiss. Alright. So we're in the QO.
Cool.
QO. We can look at some other cards while we're waiting. Power Leak's another example of worthless auras that enchant auras. Jeez.
This one they actually printed in Urza's Saga as...
Was that a heavy enchantment
No,
set?
they printed it with cycling, though, and they called it something else, Power Taint.
Oh,
If it
Taint in
taint
the
the
name.
ball,
That's a
taint-
great
yeah.
idea. Let's put Taint in the name.
Oh.
Looks like the...
That's what I meant.
Okay. Looks like the... I thought you were... Taint.
Taint.
Don't say too much.
Yeah. Curse yourself.
Alright, let's get that little card thing out here. It looks like our rare is Renegade Krasis, which is good. We also have Scab Clan Giant. It looks like we're passing just an enormous amount of green signal out of this pack. But unfortunately, there's like nothing else beyond the really good green cards.
I mean, you don't really want to take Gatekeepers early.
So the picks are really Renegade Krasis, Scab Clan Giant, Beetleform Mage. What are you feeling the most?
Krasis.
Because it's monocolor?
Yeah.
Even though we're passing a whole bunch of other green. I can get behind that.
I don't like Krasis that much at all, actually, but I feel like out of this pack, it's probably our best bet. Unless you want to go Runner's Bane. But Runner's Bane gets trumped by everything in this set, or in this pack.
Yeah.
So we might as well not be in blue.
For me, it's really, I guess, Beetleform or Renegade. Scab Clan Giant being third. Renegade's less color intensive, so I guess I'm okay with it. Beetleform's definitely, I think, better, but let's not commit too much too early. Okay, we can do, or too many colors too early. Warp Physique, but I like the Moss Dog here.
Let's just cut green.
We can try to.
Yeah. I mean,
and Warp Physique and Moss Dog to me are pretty similar in power level. They're not too, I mean, they obviously have different roles.
Moss Dog pumps the Renegade.
Moss Dog's very good.
It scavenges.
Yep, Profit Loss also in this pack. Render Silent, the rare remaining. Not too much else beyond that. Tons of clue stones. It looks like 4. It's just ridiculous. Moss Dog, though. Moss Dog we will take. Okay. Next we have
Armored Wolf Rider.
We have Armored Wolf Rider. We have Windrake. We have Toil and Trouble, Boros Guildgate, Weapon Surge, Fatal Fumes. Plenty of playables. Wolf Rider moves us into Selesnya. Fatal Fumes moves us into Golgari. Weapon Surge, Gruul. Windrake, Simic. You feeling the Wolf Rider the most?
I think so. It allows us to pick up more Simic, like, evolve creatures, the good ones. And
Armored Wolf Rider is good at evolving, but I mean, if we're going to do that, then why not just take the Windrake to, like, stay on color with it and get a good creature to scavenge on and stuff like that?
I suppose, but Armored Wolf Rider lets us go into the late sets, too, or, like, we're turned around.
Set us up for Selesnya. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I think I want the Windrake only because we have a couple good Simic cards already. This isn't necessarily Simic, but the fact that it scavenges really helps with, like, it works well with the Windrake.
Yeah. I mean, we'd only, like, pass, like, the Beetleform Mage, I suppose, as a blue card.
Yeah.
But...
or a straight Simic card.
Yeah.
The next pack has Flux Charger and Maze Glider and Ubulsar, Nivix Cyclops, Rot Farm Skeleton. All are good. I'm okay with Maze Glider here. I've learned to actually kind of fall in love with this card. It's I've been comparing it to like Asperious Skywatch. If you think about what you're getting out of Asperious Skywatch, it's not that much different than Maze Glider. You are detaining a creature, but I think the point of the detain is then you don't have to block with your Skywatch. Whereas Maze Glider, you can feel pretty comfortable blocking with most of the time.
Or like a detain at that point makes them not want to attack with their other guys that they might have attacked with if they had their big creature to attack with too.
Next pack we get a gift in Krasis Incubation, which is an excellent, excellent Simic card. Pretty good side for Simic too, I would think.
Mm.
But this pack also contains Fatal Fumes, Ubulsar Gatekeepers. It does look like black might be a thing we could take a look at pack 2. I guess have to see how the rest of this pack goes, but pretty happily snatch up Crisis Incubation here. Okay, the next pack we have Toil and Trouble, Boros Gate, Murdering Phantasms, Ceruli Gatekeepers, Deputy of Acquittals. I'm okay with taking the Gatekeepers. I'm not like thrilled about it, but
I think they're really strong if you can get
yeah,
the gates, but
we might
they're
be able
fine
to
because
we already have
evolve.
a good late game strategy in both the Scavenge card we have and the Evolve strategy we have.
It's just too bad we haven't seen any Battering Crisis, actually.
Okay, next we have Runner's Bane, which looks like the only on-color thing
Also
here.
Maze Abomination.
Quite a few red cards in here. Could take the Maze Abomination, which is my favorite Abomination, but I think I'm okay with Runner's Bane. We'll try it out. Not thrilled about it, but could work out. Okay, another Maze Abomination is also some decent red tricks, red cards in general. I think we're going to let people go into red. I guess we can go for a bug deck.
We can at least prepare ourselves to do it if we need to.
Yep, next pack's going to be important then, as we're going to be looking at both Dimir and Simic.
Mm-hmm.
Next pack has Simic Cluestone. It also has Opal Lake Gatekeeper.
I want the Cluestone.
Alright, I guess we can take the Cluestone. There's also Protect and Serve, but if you can't play Protect, then Serve's not worth... See, my thing about Protect and Serve is, if you're in white, I think Protect and Serve is actually pretty good. Mm-hmm. Protect has proven itself, even though it's more expensive than Knightly Valor from Core Set. Protect is just fine. But if you're not in white, then I don't like just playing Serve, so let's take some Cluestone. I can get behind that. Okay, we have Hidden Strings, we have Render Silent, Mutant's Prey. I mean, let's take the Prey just in case. Okay. There's not... It's very... I've yet to be able to play Mutant's Prey, but we do have a Scavenge card. We've got one Evolve already. We could get some more. It actually works with Crisis Incubation.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's take it.
Vital Surge.
Once again, not a great chance we're playing it, but we'll leave the option up there. It looks like red is open, but we'll take the Phyto Burst to cut green, which we're actively trying to do. I'd rather cut green than blue, so let's continue just taking that. Even though the Hidden Strings might be better, I don't think we're going to end up playing either of those. Mind Static versus Phantasm. I kind of want the Phantasm because it evolves as well as can be good.
Yeah.
If we're short on playables, it can be okay, and it's good against the hyper aggro decks in this format, which do exist. So far, not a single multicolored creature for our Maze Glider, but 3/5 flyer is just fine. Guess it doesn't matter. So far, not the strongest looking pool, but we look okay. Really, Pack 2 here is going to be an important one for deciding if we're going to be going deeper, if we're going to approach Bug, or if we're going to leave it more Simic, if we're going to be able to go more Simic. My new thing has been, like, someone mentioned it too, where I've been sort of like cowering away from 3 colors. It's mostly like if you don't have the fixing, I really don't like going 3 color, and currently our only fixing is 1 Cluestone.
2 colors.
Yeah, which I'm not really thrilled about. If it was like a Dimir Cluestone, it might be a little bit better for us to do that route. Alright, well, we open Mystic Genesis, which is certainly interesting. I actually think this card is much more playable in full block than it was in... But we're much more likely to table it, too, I would think, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
So, the best cards in this pack are Bane Alley Broker, Sage's Road Denizen, for us, specifically, Basilica Screecher. I'm okay with the Denizen. It evolves. I have a fair amount of blue creatures already. Could get some more.
Creature.
Gridlock is actually good in decks like this, but we already have a fair amount of evasion just based on pack 1. So I'm okay with Sage's Road Denizen here.
Okay.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
Not the most exciting first pick, but certainly doable.
Let's just pick up Evolve.
Oh, Grizzly Spectacle, that's pretty insane. There's also Dinrova Horror, Incursion Specialist, White of Precinct 6. A lot of good black cards passed from this pack. Absolutely. Snapjaw feels fine here as it is an Evolve card. It's not the most exciting pick, though. It is on color.
We have 2 Mutant's Praise. I feel like we could
I'm okay with taking the Snapjaw here. I like the Snapjaw more than the Specialist, I think. Snapjaw, he's been a heavy hitter for us before, so I could see him doing it again. Plus, if we pick up like Crown Ceratok out of this pack, if we pick up, there's something that gives. Yep, either of those are excellent with the Snapjaw. So it looks like we're probably just going to be passing black in general. But once again, I mean, I could take Grizzly Spectacle here.
Then go to double black?
And hope that we just see more black and maybe go more Demir or go Gary. And we're hope to find more fixing later. Like if we go bug, we can take Axebangs. You know?
Well, yeah.
Couldn't really decide. I don't know. All right, this pack's got actually a lot of good stuff for us. We've got the Frilled Oculus, Scabclan Charger. There's also Skyjack, Assault Griffin, Skinbrand, Pit Fight, Gruul Guildgate, and Zamek Guildmage. I think, like you said, we want the Guildmage. But hopefully we table either the Oculus, Charger, or Pit Fight. Pit Fight I don't think is going to happen. Possibly the Oculus could happen, but Charger I think could actually happen too. Either of those tabling would be excellent for us, but we'll pretty happily snatch up the Zamek Guildmage. Okay, so this pack we have... Okay, I was looking at the Phantom right away, but you're right. I think the Shamble Shark is what we want. There's also... So we've got Legion Loyalist, Debtor's Pulpit, Shamble Shark, Bomber Core, Leyland Phantom, Scorchwalker. Good mixes of colors, but let's snatch up Shamble Shark. Awesome 2-drop. Now we've got Greenside Watcher, Adaptive Snapjaw, Nimbus Swimmer.
I like Swimmer with our double mutant spray.
Yep. We can do the Nimbus Swimmer. And we might not even we might not even play the mutant spray. And there is another Snapjaw, but just for diversity's sake, we can take the Nimbus Swimmer. There's also a Greenside Watcher, but with 0 gates. It's just a bear, which is okay, but unnecessary. It doesn't evolve Shamble Shark either. Okay, now we have Simic Charm, which I think we're going to take. There's also Frilled Oculus, Scabclan Charger, Burst of Strength, Aetherize, like Jake said, pretty much just a Simic pack in general, but Simic Charm is phenomenal, and you don't get too many opportunities to pull it. Wow, awesome here. So Drakewing Krasis definitely going to be the pick. There's also Scabclan Charger or possibly Wildwood Rebirth, which is playable but not super exciting. So take our Drakewing pretty happily, and we're definitely down the path of a good-looking Simic deck. Here we can take Riot Gear, Verdant Haven, Psychic Strike. I think we'll take the Verdant Haven just in case there's some splash we want to do. Like Maze Abomination, not worth it in my opinion as a splash, but if we see anything out of Pack 3, like a Pack Rat or something, then we can go down that route. Gridlock did table, which I'm happy about. There's also Forced Adaptation and Skullcrack and Massive Raid in here, so it does look like Red's been open pretty much the whole draft. But Gridlock...
Red is one of those colors, you know. It's either like...
massively overdrafted or massively open,
It just drives me crazy how much that is.
Kind of covering our in-game spells right now.
That means that somebody else took the Mystic Genesis.
Yeah, that's strange.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have expected that. Just a rare drafter. Maybe it was a weaker pack than I realized.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was really expecting to table that. All right, so we'll take Specialist here pretty happily since it evolves Shamble Shark and actually Renegade Krasis too.
I'd rather play it over Murmuring Phantasm probably.
Yeah, I can get behind that. Scabclan Charger did table, as we'd hoped it would. That kind of worries me because it tells me someone else took a Frilled Oculus over it.
But it's got to be the person taking the Mystic Genesis.
Yeah, so there is another Simic player, which is a little bit worrisome. But we did still end up with some pretty...
We got a lot of good Simic cards still.
I would have liked maybe 1 or 2 more, but getting the Charm, the Guildmage, the Shark, the Krasis, and the Incubation out of the first pack, so... And the Swimmer. So we did end up with some good ones, you're right. Let's take the Rebirth here. It's actually a playable card. Wow.
And the Snapjaw made it back?
Third to last Snapjaw I'm really happy about since this deck wants more Evolvers. So Bioshift, I guess. Probably not playing it. Out of this last pack, really want to focus on the green Scavenge cards. That makes the Mutant Spray much more realistic.
And
so like Drudge Beetles and stuff like that.
Mangler. There's one now.
I wish we could make that work. Okay, so this pack, our rare is Martial Law, which is excellent, but not quite on color. There's also Dreg Mangler. The on color good spell is pretty much just Giant Growth and Inaction Injunction. I think I'd rather have the Giant Growth. It's a better trick. Good, insanely good with Drakewing, but it just makes it's just an excellent cheap combat trick. So I'm okay with taking the giant growth here. Or do you feel okay with that? It's not a thrilling first pick,
Well,
but
I would almost rather take the Drag Mangler and just see if we can hedge that because we already have Maze Abomination and Glider. So like,
we're not going to table the giant growth either, you know. And I
we're
think,
definitely not
and like
tabling much out of this pack anyway. You know,
yeah,
like an action injection is really the only other thing we want.
and we might actually table that. There's a chance.
So I'm fine with giant growth if that.
I mean, I do see what you're saying because Drag Mangler is so much better, but once again, our fixing reserved to a Verdant Haven and a Simic Cluestone. That might be enough.
But we could also pick up a Guildgate here. I mean, what? We have 26 cards that are
And
in
end up
our
getting a Promenade, maybe. Do we want to go? I kind of don't want to go 3-color. I mean, I guess we could.
second Drag Mangler or
There's also a
Stealer.
Stab Wound. There's also a Frostburn Weird, actually, and if we go 2-color, this card's super playable. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather have the Weirds than the Stealer.
Okay.
Especially since it evolves everything in the world, too. But there's another Dreg Mangler, like you said. Like, we could take the Golgari Guildgate. We could have... If we took the Dreg Mangler, would we just take another Dreg Mangler and then hope to get the Guildgate? Or we'd take the Stab Wound? And, you know, it's like... Or we could just take a card that's fits into our 2-color scheme. I think that's sort of like what my mentality has been recently in drafts.
Yeah.
Because you do usually end up with enough playables in 2 colors to make it work. And then your mana base is just like set. There's also Grove the Guardian in this pack, which is surprising. We didn't even mention that because it's not on color, but it's actually a good spell. But I'm happy to take Frostburn Weird. It blocks the world too. It's just a really good spell. Okay, now we've got a second Stab Wound. Selesnya Charm, which is excellent. Stealer of Secrets, which I think we're going to end up taking. We could splash for Selesnya Charm with Verdant Haven, but I don't think we're going to do it. Let's hide some spells. I don't think we're doing this. Probably not doing this. Probably not doing the Phantasm. This is 25. Probably not doing the Maze Abomination if we're staying 2-color.
So Verdant Haven can come out.
Yep. Or maybe even Cluestone too eventually. I guess we can take the Stealer here. He's fine. Much better when you have like actual interactions that work well with him. Like I guess Vital Burst is okay with him, but not thrilling.
Giant Growth is fine.
Okay.
Dispel.
This pack has Dispel. It has the Golgari Guildgate now. Guess that actually makes our Black Splash a little more realistic if we were to table, because it looks like Black was just going late.
Yeah. But we could take it and just hedge for it.
Yeah, let's just take the Golgari Guildgate. Because with the Verdant Haven and a Golgari Guildgate, I'd feel much more comfortable. Alright, so Fairy Imposter, which currently works with...
Specialist, probably the best.
Yeah. Because you can just bounce itself.
No.
No, it has to be in another. Okay. Nothing too amazing that it works well with. You could just take the Long Legs, which evolves everything as an efficient beater. I don't mind doing that. Are you okay with that? Aerial Predation is an excellent sideboard card. Probably main deckable. There's a lot of flyers played.
And we're not playing them.
I kind of like the big threat of Long Legs. It also gets much better with Maze Glider. How do you feel about that? Decent?
Fine, yeah.
Okay. I guess we're going to take the Fat Creature over the Predation and the Imposter. Imposter is playable in here. I'm just not thrilled about it. Okay, next pack we have not much on color, it appears.
Museum Skin.
Could also take the Azorius Guildgate if we happen to wheel something relevant in white. Having either of these makes me think we could splash something bomb in either black or white with the help of one gate and Verdant Haven. So we'll just leave ourselves open possibly to doing it. Cancel is fine. There's also Sluiceway Scorpion.
It's Risen Sanctuary if you want to do a splash that's bomb.
Sluiceway's okay too with the Golgari and feeding the Mutant's Prey, which we might end up playing. I'm not sure. I guess we can take Cancel though, because double blue's not really that harsh for this deck. Alright, Predation here and Slitherhead. I almost want the Predation more, but I do see your logic for the Mutant Spray. Let's do a quick count to see if Mutant Spray is even playable. So, Zamek Guildmage potentially can put counters on. Shamble Sharks 2. Renegades 3. Krasis is 4. Mossog's 5. Looks like only 5.
Double Snapjaw.
Oh, and then double Snapjaw, so 7. It's decent. Slitherhead would make it 8, which makes it more realistic. Do we want to try for that? Do you want to? I guess we could. Why not? Let's try and make Mutant Spray work. We haven't yet. 8 cards I feel like is an appropriate amount.
We could just play one of them too.
Yeah, we can just get away with 1. I agree. Here, nothing that really matters. Guess Grizzly Salvage maybe. Next pack we've got nothing really on color. Terrace Worm, Rakdos Charm, Rally, Dynacharge. Let's take Terrace Worm, I guess. Something bombing expensive. Makes sense on a splash. Armory Guard's probably the best card remaining in this next pack. Urban Burgeoning, Chemist's Trick, Tablet of the Guilds also here. Psychic Spiral, Jailbreaker, Rootborn Defenses.
Let's take the Spiral.
Yeah, just in case we play against the Nut Demir Mill deck, it'd be nice to have a Psychic Spiral. Bella's Lizard, Destroy the Evidence. I guess doesn't matter. And Backlash, pretty good against us. So the good news is we ended up with. I'm pretty satisfied with all the playables we got in just straight Simic. And I don't think we're going to be messing with any sort of splash. I don't think we really need to mess with ramp. I don't even think we need the Clue Stone, really. Got a few 5-drops and a 6-drop. That shouldn't be an issue, right? I don't think we're doing the Mutant Spray plan as much. We might try. I think we're going to try 1 just to kind of experiment with it, see if we like it. Because, like I said, we've yet to play it, so it's worth seeing. I think we're.
Count Nimbus Swimmer?
I think Gatekeeper's out too. No, I didn't actually. So 9. We currently have 9. That's pretty good. We could try for both of them. I just really don't want it to be.
I don't want it to be a dead card ever. So.
Yeah. Let's just go. Let's play it safe for now. If we need more playables, I'll consider it. But yeah, like I said, satisfied with what we do have so far in this deck. We actually got some blue removal. Good amount of evolve. Good amount of evasion. This is 24. Okay. So, let's separate out stuff. 17 creatures is a good amount. What do you think? Do you want to try maybe sideboard and cancel, or do you maybe what creature looks the least appealing to you? I think all of our creatures look pretty satisfactory.
Yeah.
I guess Stealer looks a little iffy, but it is a 3-drop.
We don't have any others, and it works fine with Simic Charm too.
It works. Yeah, it works right. Fine.
So,
I agree. Runner's Bane.
I feel like
Giant Growth.
we could probably cut the cancel.
Okay, so I think we're gonna sideboard cancel for like the Planeswalkers or the Tezas, stuff like that. This is a good looking 23, 17 creatures, really good value ones. How many Evolve guys did we get total? We got Shamble Shark, Krasis, Double Snapjaw. These Snapjaws are actually really cool with the Krasis. I think we've actually used his ability for full effect before.
It works. Krasis works really well with Slitherhead too.
Yeah, or Mossdog.
Or
so
Zamek Guildmage.
It would have worked really. Yeah, that's a good point too. It would have worked really well with if we got some more Scavenge, but we didn't see any Drudge Beetles.
Actually, with Zamek Mage, it's very good because you can evolve off.
Yeah, evolve your Krasis.
Put more on that creature that just came out.
Yeah, so Zamek Guildmage should be a really good creature in this deck. And like I said, Mutant Spray. It'll be exciting to kind of try that card out. Maybe if we play our deck for a little while and we see that we're having good results with it, we can maybe add the second one. But I'm pretty comfortable just playing 1 for now. So this is like our pit fight. Not as good, but we'll see how pseudo pit fight it really is.
It is instant speed.
Yeah. So it looks like we're straight even. We do need double blue on turn 2.
Double green on turn 4 or 3.
5. So I guess we'll err on the side of blue. Because it's pretty much even otherwise, but oh no, I guess we need it for this too. Okay.
So we should be.
I guess we should err on the side of well, we're gonna have 17, so we'll do the green for the. I think probably the Krasis maybe a little more important than necessarily getting Frostburn Weird on turn 2. No thanks. No thanks. Kind of funny. Okay, so it looks like we're gonna do a 9/8 split green to blue. Like I said, good looking deck. Certainly enough ways to win. When you say big fat creatures, Gridlock is going to be real.
Devastating.
With the Snapjaws, I would think, and the long legs. Just so fat creatures, good cards, good removal for a blue green. Blue green is typically the colors that get the least amount. They're mostly combat trick oriented. In this case, we actually have like bounce effects and arrest effects, tap down effects. So, another card that was kind of like really bad in full block that I've been having good success with is Paralyzing Grasp. Or that was really bad in triple Return to Ravnica, and it's turned out to be actually pretty good now. Is Paralyzing Grasp. I've been playing it and having a fair amount of success.
I think it's funny how some of those cards get like that after full block,
Yeah, a lot of them have. We'll have to talk about more about that on the next podcast, but that's going to wrap it up for today. Hopefully we'll have another guest next week. I've been a little bit lazy looking for a guest for some reason. I had a couple last-minute people that sort of had to bail out because we're recording this on Father's Day. But hope you enjoyed it. Contact me at mortarpod@seemsgoodmagic.com if you want to comment. I'm doing as many blogs as I can. We just recently did I did a beta draft, and I'm still learning. It's still a learning process with that, but I would recommend everybody getting kind of comfortable with it because that's going to be the eventual transition we have to do. We have to get ready for it. You can follow us on Twitter at SeemsGoodMagic. Watch us live stream Tuesdays, Thursdays, 7 p.m. Central Time. Jake and I have been pretty damn consistent with it and been hearing a lot of people coming out, positive feedback. We really appreciate it. So if you want to watch the drafting portion, or if you want to watch the matches for the drafting portion of this draft, they'll be at SeemsGoodMagic.com. So thanks. Have a good one. See you guys later.